Blitz of 2026. Up tonight is the Kingdom of Kittens Civil War up between Kamishiro and Gremory. I'm Isaac. Alongside me is Cherry J. And in addition to the, I guess, excitement of having a fun matchup like this, we've also got something interesting for the third week for side selection. Typically, we have the 1v1s, but we have now entered the rotation of which the bot lane 2v2s will be determining side selection for this series, Cherry.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good game. We look at these two teams, expect a lot of greatness from them. Not necessarily the teams that are going to be on the front runners for that championship, but they're both 1-1. They both have had a good season so far. Obviously, only week 3. They're still testing the waters a little bit. This is where games start to get a little bit more important, though, as you're rounding out the first half of games or so, as there's only 9 weeks total. So, as they do end up getting in, I mean, you're realistically going to be looking at Kingdom of Kittens Gremory with a little bit of a disadvantage coming into this. They've had a little bit more scrappy losses with one of their games going 2-3. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro has had some pretty just finite games. They both went to 2-0s, one for them, one against them. And when you look at the opponents that they've beaten, it's not like they're playing against bad teams. They had a 2 over Quantum Legion Gaming Next, as well as they had a 2-0 against Monkeys Incorporated. Monkeys Incorporated obviously being 2-0. They're a strong team for sure.
We're going to go straight in. Going to cut you off there because Psyduck tries to find his way in on Sloth. Won't quite find the mark. And so QST with this double melee setup that Kamishiro have gone for, going to be fully pushed out by Sloth. Wouldn't be feeling all too great for the Kamishiro side to start things out.
I like this comp though, at least over on the red side. The combination between the Draven as well as the Nautilus gives you a really good engage, especially when you look for that singular target to try and prioritize. On the other side of things, it's a different story. I think the Tryndamere has a weak ARAM position because of the fact that you're constantly looking to up the rage. It gets a little bit
going to hit the mark onto Sloth, has to flash away, will stand aside, but the snowball hits onto Sloth. Good hook from Kamikaze. What a hectic name to keep Sloth alive, but will take a ton of damage in return. Also has to flash away. And so Kamishiro strike back in a big way, knowing that they have to fight constantly, have to get in range. Flash forward, first blood, Psyduck will claim it onto the support of Gremory.
And I think that is one of the benefits you're going to get with this combo. You're playing a very unorthodox bot lane combo comparatively to your opponents who really tried going with that synergetic idea of, yeah, we're going to just run our regular bot laners and support because they already have so much just history playing with each other. And when you have that, it is going to give you that beneficial positioning of being able to understand the communications. Meanwhile, your opponents, yes, they've been in the lobby together, yes, they've been on the battlefield, but it doesn't have nearly the same amount of synergy one would have to imagine as your support and bot laner who have obviously had that time tested. And as we do get into this game, obviously the win condition is going to be 2 deaths, not 1. And so what that's going to give you is a little bit of extra itemization. If you are this Nautilus, you're going to be able to back at least once, and that's going to give you a small benefit in terms of some gold to item ratio comparatively to your opponents who haven't had that same luxury and are still stuck with just that cloth as well as the dagger. So it's certainly not ideal if you're on this blue side, and that could be a little bit of a win, but that is definitely going to be rough because when they end up having their first player die, they're going to be in a much more beneficial position to be able to get them back. Say it's like your Tryndamere,
which it might come now. Psyduck instead going to go forward, finds his way onto Sloth, who will pop the barrier immediately. The heal drops down onto Psyduck, stays alive. QST has access to the level 6. He's too angry to, or no, we'll save it for later. We'll instead opt to use that death to go back to the base for the Tryndamere. Be a pretty big source of damage, but it does put Kamishiro in a pretty troublesome spot with Psyduck as low as he is. It means it could be a very easy death that could hand side selection over to Gremory.
It's already looking like Kamishiro has this game in the bag. Though. I'm not gonna lie, because you look at this itemization, they get the BF sword. That's going to give them a crucial up on the damage, as well as that they still have the ultimate online, hitting level 7. That's just going to up the levels on their Q, which is going to give them even more damage. And if they can completely fill up this rage tank, that's going to just be that lethality necessary to be able to take down somebody like the Draven in 3-4 shots at max. So obviously
It's actually
Kamishiro,
AD, but okay.
well, yeah, it was more so just the.
No, because you said anyway, because you said lethality, but he doesn't have any in his inventory. But okay, anyway,
He doesn't have it, but just the critical damage that you get is just so.
And he'll have to try to go in now onto Sloth, flashing forward, won't quite get the kill onto the Draven, though it does get him further away and very low, dangerously so. Will not be safe under that tower when QSC still has access to the ult.
Yeah, it's a situation where we're realistically just going to be seeing this Tryndamere looking to use their
The taunt hits the mark, and that's exactly what Kamishiro needs to claim victory here in the 2v2, picking up their second kill. Whatever happens post this mark does not matter. Congratulations, Kingdom of Kimon's Kamishiro, and their double melee setup for getting the first 2 kills and getting themselves a side selection for our series tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly an unorthodox composition that's going to come out on top. Running this Shen with the Tryndamere definitely had a lot of ups, a lot of downs early on, but overall, having that second back, I think, is what really put the nail in the coffin. You can't be the first team to lose your first player, I guess. You have to wait for your opponents to make that mistake of killing you off the bat. That way you get that refresh on your gold. And so when they had that BF sword, it just gave them so much dominance over that lane to the point where there just was no comeback. You can't really make anything off of that unless you're able to out level them, outscale them, but that's not something you're going to be able to easily find despite playing a ranged champion into 2 melee champions, because the fact that they do have so much versatility, the mobility that you're going to be able to get with the Tryndamere, with the Shen. Yes, it's not insane. Yes, it's not excessive, but it still is enough to be able to close the gap between you and your opponents. And if the Nautilus isn't able to connect the hook, which we did see pretty consistently, they had some nice hooks, but it just was not enough to be able to get that proactivity down, be able to halt somebody in their tracks. And when you're not able to lock them up, that's when this Tryndamere and Shen combo will thrive.
Yeah, especially since of how early Kamino Kaze did die. He only came back with a cloth armor and a boot, so not nearly as impactful as the BF sword that QST was able to get. With that, we are going to send it to break, and when we come back, it will be the draft of game 1 of this cat fight between Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro and their sister team, Kingdom of Kittens Gremory. So we'll see you in a little bit for that. Don't go anywhere. And we are back after the 2v2 between Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro and Kingdom of Kittens Gremory went the way of Kamishiro with their Tryndamere Shin combination that they just went ham all in on. Didn't care a bit for the range that Gremory had, so they will have side selection. And for game one, they're starting on blue side, Cherry.
Yeah, Kamishiro, they're taking a weird approach of banning out the Diana. Maybe they know something we don't in terms of what maybe one of the big picks Gremory's going to be looking at is. And obviously on the other side, things still going to be doing the exact same thing, duplicating the jungle ban, putting theirs over towards the Wukong. Certainly seems like we're likely going to be getting that Jin Zhao Jarvan 4 matchup in game one based off this pinch in the jungle, as well as that Yone coming out. So also just doing a little bit more proactivity, adapting towards that mid lane, and the Maokai as well to be banned out. So Gremory, they're really going away, taking these junglers out. We'll see what the response does look like.
Yeah, the Yone Yasuo taken off the board from Kamishiro. Artifact, very fervent player of the Sword Bros, the Ionian Sword Brothers. I think across the two has, I think it was more than double of these two champions than any other in solo queue. So not giving Artifact their best champions, who so far I think Artifact has definitely been a fairly decent performer for the side of Gremory. We're going to be forced to pull down the pull out the champion pool a bit more, especially as the series goes on, as it is a fearless one. Kingdom of Kittens Gremory also going to be taking, as you mentioned, the Maokai and the Shin, not going to be available for well, either team, but targeted towards Samurai, I would suppose, who definitely has a very interesting support champion pool. So kind of just getting one of those less conventional, although not the most unconventional, out of the way. Kaisa, though, going to be the lock-in for Gremory. Obviously, you assumed it'd be the Jarvan and then Xin Zhao matchup. It could still very well be, but Vi is the hover with only a few seconds remaining, and as it's locked in, will be Kingdom of Kittens Gremory going for the Vi. I mean, maybe that sets up an Ahri angle. I know Artifact plays it.
Yeah, I mean, the Ahri Vi game one certainly does send out a message of, yeah, we're going to look to fight for the Void Grubs, especially as those two are super, super good at being proactive towards the Kais as well. Really nice at being able to start up engagements. And that as well is one of the reasons I think that Ahri you mentioned, it's very possible. We allude to that idea of the dive composition pretty often, and I think that certainly Kamishiro has that intention of reading into it as the Xayah gets pulled out. That's something that really does have that sustainability with the ultimate being able to get you untargetable for at least a moment or two. And whether or not they're going to still walk into that Gremory, they could definitely have that chance. But if you still go with somebody maybe like a tankier support, thinking of that Nautilus like we saw in that 2v2, maybe something like a Alistar, that tankiness you're going to get from your support is going to make a dive angle really, really unresponsive.
Wei instead going to be the lock-in for the side of Kamishiro. Bit interesting to see on that front, especially when the Vi Ahri is up and available. The Vi was showing, and we know Artifact plays it, and I don't see a lot of Ahri in GOAT Theory's match history, but I feel like Ahri is just one of those champions that as a mid laner, you have to know how to play, and with that showing how strong of a dive Gremory have drafted for themselves, the option to go Hui, I don't know if I'm so enthusiastic with.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I think the way definitely does leave a lot of dive potential for Gremory due to the lack of mobility you have, the lack of self-sufficiency you have. It's a lot of just DPS output, meaning Gremory is going to have an easy target in the majority of team fights. That's really going to require a new person, maybe the top laner support, to be able to peel well for the way, and whether or not that's going to be a feasible, a viable option, we're yet to see. But I think specifically this Vi and Ahri are going to have a field day dealing with this way.
Well, I do think it is viable because Gremory has locked it in. Or okay, you know what? Never mind. This is solo cast now. Anyway, moving on. Second round advance has gone through. Large focus towards the support pool of both champions. A lot of engage taken off the board. Nautilus and Blitzcrank from Kamishiro. Meanwhile, the Mordekaiser and the Rakan taken off by Gremory. Thresh is the hover for quite a while, and now the lock-in for the side of Gremory can definitely help along with the dive as well when you've got a death sentence with some few really easy targets that are going to be locked down.
Yeah, giving your teammates that mobility to be able to just walk back, it's really nice. And I think that's something that they're going to take advantage of, especially the Kaisa, who's going to love to be able to walk in with the Killer Instinct and then get out easily with the Dark Passage. And then if you need it, maybe pull out something like a Death Sentence who's just going to be able to gather a target. Maybe the Poppy would be a good one, especially. That's interesting for me. The Poppy lock-in. Now, there's already the Jarvan 4, so we won't be seeing that in the jungle, but there is still that opportunity to lock it up top side. I think this is a great pickup, though, as you have so much opportunity to be able to lock up your opponents. I'm thinking that Vi, that Ari, who are going to look to be dashing in pretty consistently, not going to have the chance. And so with the Ornn, that'll force Poppy down in support. Ornn up in top. The only real question I have is that just absurd amount of armor that you're going to be getting from this Poppy Ornn. I think that that can be capitalized on pretty easily by a Dominix, and I think that if the LDR comes out from somebody like the Kaisa, they're going to love to be able to just walk up onto that Poppy, walk up onto that Ornn, walk up to the Jarvan 4, the three characters that are really going to be loving the armor in this game.
I mean, we had a bunch of switches around on the hovers between the Scion and the Trundle, both of which I was personally fans of. I mean, we've already talked about how much armor Ornn and Poppy can get. I mean, with the Trundle, you could easily sap it away by pressing R on either, or primarily Ornn, and then in the top lane, it is very strong Trundle matchup. But Scion also just being so incredibly strong in the meta as like the matchup into Ornn to completely nullify it. Also a viable option, but instead they will switch off to the Volibear for that matchup.
I think the Volibear definitely works into this, especially when you consider diving under tower. You're going to be looking for the Stormbringer into the cease and desist, and that's going to be a phenomenal combo to be able to just put the pressure onto the Ornn. Now, obviously, Ornn is a character that will be thriving when in these 2v1s. It's very difficult to take them down, especially when you add in the mobility, the CC, everything that you get as an Ornn. But if this Vi can prove their worth in this game, show why this team is still afloat at 1-1 overall within their season, they can really come out on top. But we will just have to wait and see. I think that overall, though, in terms of draft, I do like Gremory's a little bit more.
Yeah, the Vi-Ari combination, incredibly potent, and the cease and desist is unstoppable as well. So even with the steadfast presence of the Poppy, Vi is going to have an easy time getting in there. And the thing is, as soon as the Poppy W does go down, you no longer have that extra protection for primarily the Hui, who's it's just going to be so difficult for Goat Theory to be able to play out this game just in general with what Gremory have drafted for themselves. Luckily, QST will probably be able to survive it a little bit better, and if they can somehow manage to survive that initial burst and bait in the side of Gremory a bit too far, a good Blade Caller could still root up everybody and do insane amounts of damage for QST. But I think that's what Kamishiro is going to have to rely on this game if they want to have a chance of winning it. Obviously, we'll see if it'll play out that way as we are looking to go onto the Rift relatively soon. I correct myself because it's a Raven production behind the scenes, so he does things so where we don't quite have to have the spec delay as much. So I'm going to assume we're probably getting in soon. But while we wait on that, I do think it'll be a bit difficult with a fairly distinct lack of very obvious peel from the side of Kingdom's Kamishiro. If Gremory can obviously blow up Wave really quickly, then could be very difficult for Kamishiro. Obviously, if Kamishiro are allowed to set up, though, they could find a really big team fight. They've certainly got a lot of team fight potential behind them, though.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned like targeting the mid laner of Kamishiro, because that's actually the tied for the highest rank on the team. So you'd imagine that they would more so be looking at them as the one who really needs to be staying alive the most, putting their bot and support maybe as the lambs to the slaughters. Those are the two tied for the lowest rank on the team platform. And obviously, very similar ranks on the board. You have your top jungle and mid laner all at plat 3. Your support and bot are the only ones a little bit less improved in that rank, whether they are at plat 4. And so it is a little bit rough for sure having that, but it's a very even team across the board. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, you have a very different approach in terms of ranks from the Gremory side of things. So what that's likely going to mean is that there's going to be a lot more proactivity from Kamishiro in the jungle, due to the fact that, you have a gold jungler. They're likely not going to be as experienced. Their pathing might not be to the same caliber as some of these Kamishiro players, and that might cause a little bit of disruption within the team chemistry, attempting to go for a Drake. Meanwhile, your bot lane is doing something. Who knows whether or not they have that mental down, that theory on the board collectively, but I'm really going to be looking at this bot lane, because you have a plat 2 support player, somebody who's clearly being tested, somebody who's a strong individual to be able to make it to that rank. And if they can be the one to really thrive, they're playing a character that has a lot of opportunity to do well, that being the Thresh. So if they can just do a dominant job hitting their hooks, supporting their team, getting their bot lane out of bad situations, and keep their team out of some bad fights, that could be what they need to be able to stay alive and keep themselves in the positive for their season, go up 2-1. Obviously, that's going to be the ideal position for sure. And you look at their stats as well. Kaminokaze, the support player for Gremory, they are all the way on the top on a lot of these top 10 stats, right? You're looking at highest average assists per game. They're up there with 15. They're doing a phenomenal job being able to support the rest of the team, giving them these opportunities, as well as you look at them in the highest average kill participation, same thing, 69.96%, almost 70, a phenomenal player to say the least. We're really going to be looking at them as a mainstay and a key factor for this team's success.
Kaminokaze, definitely one that's so far kind of proving that support is the role that you switch off to, or is like the role that if you want to have a role swap, it is, that we've seen plenty of times at the professional level, whether that be core JJ to support, or even more recently we've seen Spica popping off with NRG in the NACL, or that time that Zven played support for Berserker on Cloud9, is definitely one that seems to be the most common one to switch over to. And so Kaminokaze definitely kind of fitting the bill on that front here in the Ember Blaze League. But there's another player that I want to point out, since it's looking like it's a little bit more time to actually load onto the Rift. We're working things behind the scenes. Hopefully we'll get loaded in soon. But Marth for the side of Kingdom of Kittens, Kamishiro. Now, it was only 2 splits ago in the Ember League system where this guy was playing in the Ember Cinder League at the IBSG level. And so seeing someone that I've been able to cast before, that I am somewhat familiar with, see him kind of step up to this next level, now playing with Kingdom of Kittens, Kamishiro. It's one thing that it's always nice to see, having casted a while in like the NA amateur scene, to see players go up from like a lower rank bracket into like the higher rank bracket in the league. So it's good to see him in around here. And to be fair, in their win last week over Quantum Legion Gaming Next, definitely looked really good. And I actually had a chance to cast Kamishiro's first series up against Monkeys Inc. back in week 1 on the Literal Monkeys channel. And even though it definitely didn't look great from the side of Kamishiro, Monkeys Inc., large part of the core of that Monkeys Maui team that won last split is still on the Monkeys Inc. team, and have plenty of experience and are by far one of the most favored to be able to win this split here in the Ember Blaze League. But in that regard, even though they were clearly outclassed, I think Marth was definitely one of the strongest performing members on the side of Kamishiro. Definitely is the one that kept the games closer, especially in game 2 that time around.
Yeah, of course. I think there's a lot of real chances for these two teams to be successful. And Honestly, I think on paper, I'm gonna give you my prediction, and I will say I think that
Okay.
based on the skill level alone, I'm going to have Kamishiro winning this game. They're running a pretty simple front to back, which is easy to
Ooh.
execute, right? Gremory, there's a lot more, I guess, team synergy and cohesivity needed to be able to pull off a dive comp, especially against what they're going up against, which is that Poppy, that Ornn, who both have a lot of disruption tools to be able to focus down targets. So I think just based off of just that ease of access you're going to get out of the comp Kamshiro's running, they're going to have a little bit more success in this game.
I could definitely see that, but I mean, Gremory. There's like the thing with like the elo brackets of like games. It's like the higher up you go, typically the less hectic the games are. And considering that this isn't exactly the most peak of like brackets in terms of solo queue rank, uh, these games definitely start to get really hectic really fast. Obviously, if Kamishiro keep things together, it'll be difficult for Gremory to be able to come through. Obviously, as I had mentioned, with the Vi going unstoppable and being able to probably delete Hui, will be one part. But obviously, if Kittens have a gold lead, sometimes wallets don't matter. But I think how good the Grimory's composition is early on, how much they can brawl. If they get some of these early skirmishes going their way, and if they can make the game extremely chaotic and really don't give Kamishiro a chance to be able to set up, I don't think it'll particularly matter how good their team fight is and how good their 5v5 is.
Yeah, that is true. If you just go down gold, it doesn't matter. And obviously, that's definitely a possibility. I think Gremory, just the level of play that they are at in terms of rank, it definitely can show. You have a Plat 1 mid laner on the Ahri. Ahri, a character that has so much flexibility, so much dynamics when it comes to being able to rotate across the map. It's something we're certainly going to be looking at as a big, big playmaker. And so beyond that, right, we see the support.
There we go. Let's
Laner,
go.
everyone involved. There's a lot of high elo players in this lobby. The only, I guess, issue you might be having is your jungler, but if they can prove to be strong, they're on a relatively simple champion. The Vi, I mean, you have your Q, you run at them, you dash at them, you hit them, and then you ult. There's not a whole lot of, I guess, mechanical skill necessary comparatively to something like that Xin Zhao, who really does require a whole lot of impact. But even then, I mean, you could really run a lot of these popular junglers who are currently strong in the meta and get away with it, I think, with the current meta. So we'll have to wait and see. But overall, we get right onto the Rift and see who is going to be able to come out on top as game one right now.
Rev's already down to half HP. We didn't quite catch that on camera, but obviously both top jungle duos ran into each other. Luckily, it wasn't completely for nothing. There was a ward placed down. I actually don't see any of the cooldowns on the setup that we have, so I'm not quite sure whether it was... I'm going to probably assume it was Rev's ward that went through, as we get an audacious charge going forward, or a heroic charge. Sorry, wrong champion. From Psyduck. Unfortunately, has to walk out, taking a pretty good chunk in return. So health, but the main trade in the start of this game is the health for Vision, one that Rev has gone for.
So it is a strong start for the side of Gremory. They're pushing in waves. They're down a little bit of gold, unfortunately, but that's not a whole lot of an issue at this state. But I mean, in mid lane, they're looking good. In top lane, they have the Ornn completely under the tower. In bot lane, it's a very similar ordeal. So I think Kamishiro, they're gonna have to make some kind of comeback. They gotta get their get back soon. Health pot already extinguished for Psyduck, and whether or not that's going to lead to them being able to rejuvenate fast enough to be able to initiate another fight, they're definitely going to be the instigator. You're not gonna have your Xayah being the one to front line. Yes, they do have the barrier, and yes, that could be enough to be able to put across a little bit of that self-sufficiency, but it's definitely not going to be the position they'd love to be in. The world up in top lane going to be able to evade the volley bear for at least the time being, but as of now, they're already getting straight back into the fray.
I don't know if you're having the same... Oh, no, okay, technical issues that I am? Or... It seems to be paused on my end.
Oh, that's not good. It is working for me, unfortunately.
Okay, so I was curious about that because you were talking as if nothing was happening. I literally just only see the world and Inno just staring at each other. So I might just try to restart the stream and come back, and hopefully that'll fix it. So
All right,
sorry
good,
about that.
good.
Yeah.
But at the time being, I mean, so far you just have this getting taken, Golem now down, going to be Rev looking to fight, but at level 3, comparatively to level 4, you're likely not going to be able to secure the kill just yet. So far, that stand's still going to leave the wood.
Okay, that seemed to have fixed it. And it's perfect timing too because the smite comes down. I didn't quite see who in favor of. It looks like Rev the one be able to claim the first Scuttle Crab, but will lose a lot of health in the process. No splashes though, so we'll be able to just go back and clear their camp fully and recall and be all right.
That's a strong start for sure from these two signs. A little bit of an engagement as we've just seen over in the jungle. Nobody to secure a kill, nobody to secure a death. So a little bit of damage to be dealt, but nothing insane for the time being. It is still going to be the support up in the top lane as this Jarvan 4 taking a plethora of damage.
Yeah, just a really big miscommunication between the World and Marth, who had attempted to go for a gank, but clearly the World without mana, without not how to before I get to that. KoK going to be snared up by QST. The Ignite used defensively from KoK, interestingly enough, just to kind of dissuade Psyduck from pushing in a bit forward, but will definitely have to recall.
Just going to be backing up, looking to get that HP right back on track. Sloth down in the bot lane, they're gonna have a decent positioning, but QST going to be able to get a plethora of that gold right back on a line, trying to hit some shots. Unfortunately, the skill shots will not land. Sloth still forced to play back as they understand the fact that there's going to be that Poppy lying in wake, ready for that pop out and just completely destroy any opportunity. You do have that E to be able to give yourselves a little bit of leeway, but it's definitely not enough to be happy with.
I think it feels completely awful for Gremory's bot lane having a freeze in an ideal position. Luckily, KoK able to get back relatively quick, and well, if you land a death sentence like that, I don't think it will matter. Psyduck going to have to flash away. Sloth going forward, gets the first blood, but stuck under tower, snared up. Barrier won't save you. Traded back immediately. QST now in a bit of trouble. Will pop the barrier of their own. KoK staying at range, flash out away despite the minion saving the hook. Rev also waiting in the wings. Marth also heading towards this bot lane. QST flash forward from Rev, will get the knockup. QST not quite dead though, just barely enough health. The health potion regening just barely enough for the ADC of Kamishiro.
Yeah, that's certainly a interesting play for sure from the jungler over on the side of Gremory. You really could have concluded that, I imagine. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you had that Q more likely than not on a refresh. Could have possibly gotten in there and been able to take the life, maybe even just walk out. But in the end, they will not elect to even attempt anything of that same trade. They don't want to give QSC that extra gold. They don't want to give them the opportunity.
Flash word from Inzorazu trying to find the first blood. Stormbringer will deny the tower protection. Knockup hits the mark from the World on the charge. Just a bit too much, a bit too far for Inzorazu trying to find the solo kill, and instead gives it over to the World.
We alluded to it earlier in the draft as well, the opportunity to be able to dive under tower with something like the Stormbringer, but you're not going to be able to do that without the jungler because of the fact that it is still an Ornn and there's so much tankiness involved.
Psyduck going to pop up the steadfast presence. Flay will bring Psyduck back even closer, but the exhaust dropped immediately onto Sloth, but the blade caller comes back, not quite enough to secure the kill onto Sloth, who's still at range. KoK doing a good job to peel for Sloth, making it 2 kills over to the side of the bot lane of Gremory.
Yeah, it was just a weird play in general. They tried going all in on Sloth by utilizing the exhaust onto them while they were still at around 60% HP, and it's like, you really can't do that. You needed some kind of initiation tool. The better play, in my opinion, would have just been to try and say, yeah, we're going to concede this. We saw in the last team fight that they had under tower, QST utilizing the barrier, meaning they did not have it for this current fight, and yes, rough. That's rough for sure. It's something you really can't allow to happen, and as of now, Gremory, that gives them a little bit of leeway into this matchup, right? They were in the deficit. They were in a little bit of a rough spot. You had mentioned it earlier you didn't like it. They were getting freezed under wave. They were not having a good spot whatsoever. But now they have this lead in their own favor, around 1,000 gold between both bot and support. And yes, there's a little bit of deficits across the rest of the Rift, but in general, your bot lane now going to be in a more ideal position. We mentioned it earlier. It's something that definitely was going to be a possibility due to the rank disparity. It's not high, but it still is there.
Yeah, and I think it definitely showed, because it definitely was hold up. Flag drag, Cataclysm going to find its way onto Razu. He's going to do his best to auto down the world, but going to be kept out with the Cataclysm, but straight over to the bot lane. QST getting burst down once again. As much as Psyduck would have liked to get the advantage by eating away Rev, clearly not going to be enough, as another kill goes into the hands of the bot lane of Gremory.
That's just not ideal. Overall, Gremory, they're looking good, but it is now that equalization found once more. Sloth able to just punish the overexertion QSD puts in. They try and overextend themselves to get some kind of damage dealt, but in the end, when you're dealing against such a just threat that Sloth poses, you can't be that pushed up. And it's kind of a similar situation to what Psyduck's doing, right? Instead of electing to go back towards tower, they stay in the bush. That could already cause some issues, as there's still going to be the hook from the Thresh, and they're already going to be able to just push them in, utilizing the fly. Not going to be able to make too much after that. Instead, though, they're going to back up. They realize the fact that QST completely healthy. They're not going to want to try and force an engagement in that situation, realizing the fact that QST gets that back, and that means that they're going to have a little bit more gold posed into items.
Yeah, and this, I mean, even though Sloth does have the 700 gold lead in, the ball lane has yet to recall, so effectively it's not there, arguably even at all. As if anything, you'd even say it's slightly over to the hands of Kamishiro's bot lane, at least in the 2v2, unless Rev can say something about it. Keeper's Verdict still not available to Psyduck after using it in the last gank. Flash forward from Kamishiro will find the mark onto QST. Death Sentence follow-up will continue it for the side of Kamishiro, but a good heroic charge from Psyduck pulls Kamishiro under tower. Flag drag from Marth. Going to come up way short. Doesn't have the Cataclysm just yet. Flay once again will try to keep the side of Kamishiro at range. Won't be able to do so. Teleports now coming into the bot lane. Stormbringer comes through. Sloth will be the one to claim the kill onto Psyduck. That was already looking like it was going that way. Artifact all the while in the mid lane. Going to pick up a solo kill onto Goat Theory. It's all coming up the way, Gremory.
Well, I don't love this
Sloth?
position.
Sloth? What are... Okay, well, I mean... Yeah, well, just a little bit too greedy from Sloth to give one back over to Kamishiro, but still, Gremory's still relatively happy about how that went.
Yeah, I think they're going to be happy with being able to push their bot lane a little bit ahead, but overall, that's going to punish them across the map. We saw the force out from the Volibear being able to go down bot lane, utilizing the TP, but in general, I didn't love it. I think that giving this Ornn as much leeway that they did in the top lane is going to be able to get them so far ahead. We already see it with the Bramble Vest being built up, as well as that Magic Pen. They're really just putting themselves in a position where this Volibear is going to be having a lot less impact. So I think rather than forcing the Volibear up towards topside, you should have taken the opportunity of your ADC dying and send Sloth up to try and challenge Ornn up in top lane, right? Being able to get them a little bit less ahead would maybe be enough to push you in a good spot. We see the flag and drag attempting to be able to make the connection, won't be able to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have, but it did. I don't know if it necessarily forced the flash out of Razu, just use it preemptively just to ensure that things didn't go south too quickly. Still doesn't have access to the Stormbringer, having had used that earlier in that bot lane play, which has gotten Sloth 1.1k gold up, has a completed Kraken Slayer in inventory. So even though it did put a bit further behind and into the Ornn not going to feel great, you've got a Kai'Sa starting to get the advantage that they had. It could potentially be worth it in the end.
Soldier's playing slow. We see Sloth already cracking Slayer online. That's going to give them a lot of exponential damage for this team fights. Being able to just pull this out and start spraying down onto possibly your jungler, maybe your top laner's those main presence that you're going to look to try and fight early on. It does certainly give you that a lot more sustainability in terms of just extra damage. I kind of like the lethal build where you go for like a straight Dirk, but this is definitely not bad.
Rev, very sneaky, but Marth arriving to make it a 3v3. The box and the Flay going to slow down the advance from Kamishiro. Marth not going to opt to use the Cataclysm. Instead, we'll just back out and wait for another day.
Yeah, just a good team fight. Will not have anybody concluding with a death just yet, but it is still going to be a little bit of a lead, right? Sloth 1.4k ahead. You look at the support as well, having a similar position. Both players in that leading spot going to have Psyduck and QST now electing to dip out, start fighting for maybe that Drake that will be up in 15 seconds. Obviously, Gregory, I don't believe we saw a whole lot of engaging for it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, that first Drake was pretty just lopsided as it was just taken without too much contention. This time around, it certainly does seem like it's going to be the same situation, but the opposite way. As you don't have your mid laner, you're going to have your jungler looking to try and find an angle as the Vi comes up close with the Kai'Sa and Thresh following in suit.
Before he gets to that, Razu taken dangerously low. It's a good yeet away, finding the mark onto both Artifact and Rev, so any hope of a steal from the side of Gremory will be gone. And that should give Kamishiro the distance they need to be able to get out as well. So a really good keeper's verdict from Psyduck, going to be claiming it for Kamishiro.
It's a small price to pay. You didn't have any fight. They weather the storm quickly. Neither team looking to instigate a fight in the jungle just yet. Looking to extend this game. Not going to look to try and lose your chances just yet. I think in terms of scaling, we're going to look towards Kamishiro. Is a little bit more happy in that regards. You're looking at the Vi. Somebody who, I mean, yes, they do it, but they don't do it amazingly. Overall, though, Kamishiro looking to possibly make an engagement up towards the Rift Herald. You look towards this Jarvan 4 who's poised for a great position. We can kind of see some pings as well coming down onto the mini map. Both teams possibly going to look for it as this Vi starting to path upwards as well. But in general, I mean, you got your support. Poppy now taking a stance. Psyduck going to be close.
Razu could be in a bit of trouble. Will use the Stormbringer to try to escape, but a flag drag with the Orin Horn will provide so much CC and no escape for the top laner of Gremory. A really good gank to start off any potential fight that could have potentially come through and around the Rift Herald. Ensures that Kamishiro will be able to pick it up for themselves.
Yeah, the Stormbringer was just early. If you waited just a millimeter too late, I mean, you were going to be able to use that to get the unstoppable effect, avoid the call of the Forge God, and maybe get out. Who knows? Obviously, there was still the jungler and soup, so there was that chance that would have died either way. But I think, in general, that timing needs to be a little bit more precise, and that's going to lead the world to not only be able to get the kill, but as well as that, they'll be able to secure this top lane turret. So now, second turret as well, getting taken down after the Herald comes through, and as they crash onto this tier 2 turret, they're able to get this down to half HP. You still have your jungler as well close in suit, and with them in tandem, you're likely going to be seeing Rev maybe having a little bit of a lackluster chance, but no, they're not going to look for the engagement. They're not going to look to try and pressure these jungle camps. They're instead going to say, yeah, we'll back off for the time being. We're going to look to path on our own side, not get too risky, not allow you to try and collapse on us, and that's going to be giving them this chance to possibly even fight down in support and bot lane. However, with the ward being able to pick up location of your jungler, it's likely going to be them saying, yeah, we'll take the standstill. Never mind, they don't look for the back. Instead, they elect to stop the backs and opt in for sticking under turret, despite understanding the fact that Jarvan 4 was in close proximity.
Yeah, but I mean, Thresh, Kai'Sa have plenty of ways to keep themselves safe. So, not exactly the most dangerous world, especially since Marth did end up recalling. This is nothing burger up here. World's way too tanky. But, I mean, on that last play, though, there's such a huge swing for the side of Kamishiro. It was relatively even before this point, and now Kamishiro finds himself 2.1k gold up. Rev, though, in a bit of trouble. Spiraling Despair hits the mark. Will flash out of the Cataclysm damage. Won't matter. because Marth Summoner on the queue hits the mark to find yet another kill onto Rev, or another kill onto Marth Summoner, this time onto Rev. QST will be hit by the death sentence. We'll try to find a little bit more as the turret goes down. QST in trouble, no ults available, has no protection. Barrier comes up, flashes away, but won't escape. So much use from QST to try to live, to not even do so in the end feels bad, feels terrible.
Yeah, we really do just have to highlight the play Sloth is being putting on tonight. Already with a 2K gold lead, looking superb to say the least. They are one of the main players who's been able to keep this team alive. Same for the jungler, right? On the opposite side, thanks Kamishiro. 4-0-1 on your Jarvan 4. A spectacular performance to say the least. And as of now, with Rev coming up towards top lane, they might be able to get 2-for-1 with the double ulti.
The world flashed away. And now with Sloth arriving, shutdown goes into the hands of Rev. With Sloth arriving and with how much CC was available, I feel like maybe it could have been gifted over to Sloth, since that is who Gremory are going to need to be able to step up to be able to get them this game one. Giving them a huge injection of gold would have done a really good job at that, but Psyduck will not quite be committed onto from KoK. Still, it's a shutdown that goes into the hands of Gremory.
Arriving towards the pit, multiple players taking these extremities, possibly finding this fight over towards the mid lane, as the majority of the players now arriving on the turret, but in general, it's likely going to be Psyduck avoiding any real hefty engagements until that TP down on the flank arrives.
We're in from the world. Orinhorn called. KoK going to be the only one knocked up, surviving a decent amount of time. Will flash away, will be able to get out. Now, teleport response from Inarazu is a bit deep. Will find its way onto Marth, forces a flash away from the Jarvan. A good use of the ult from Psyduck makes it a very strong numbers advantage to the side of Kamishiro. Once again, QSC gets the kill onto Kaminokaze, and the fight that the Gremory members around opted to take was at such a disadvantage. There was no hope for them to be able to find it. Artifact will be able to get the kill on the QST with the Spirit Rush in the backline to try to bring it back level. Sloth is still alive, will use the Killer Instinct. Artifact, the one to claim the shutdown onto Marth. Charm hits the mark. Sloth, the one to claim it. And now the world, the only one left alive. Despite what I had said, despite the early kills going in favor of Kamishiro, they had failed to kill Sloth, they had failed to kill Artifact, and all the damage, all the gold was still available to Gremory to be able to close out the fight and pick up their second trade.
Yeah, they pick them off like flies. Gremory, they just look good. They look spectacular, and that's going to be all off the back of just some great play from Sloth, who does not get taken down. They keep themselves alive, and it really is just this team chemistry that comes the distance. I'd mentioned it before, these team fights, they're going to be good in, and they're showing off why. It's a situation where if you have the team chemistry, you're able to find the correct targets, you're able to disrupt your opponents when it does matter most. I mean, it's a situation where your Ornn having the most gold isn't great, right? They have 7.8k. Obviously, there is going to be close with a little bit more on your mid and jungle, who, yeah, they're definitely going to be players who we're going to be looking out for, but you really need your top side to be the weaker side of the map. Instead, it's going to be, at least when you're running the Ornn, apologies. When you're running the Ornn, you're likely going to be looking to invest the majority of your gold, the majority of your jungler's time down towards bot side to be able to support them, be able to get them the ones that are ahead. Meanwhile, your Ornn is able to just stay alive, be the rock up in top lane, be the one to be able to stay as the keystone pillar for the rest of the team to be able to walk behind it. But instead, it was kind of the opposite situation. They're really doing well. This Ornn is having a phenomenal time, which is why I kind of want to see maybe a little bit of adaptation going into game number 2, game number 3, maybe putting them on a little bit more of a dominant champion. We could see something maybe like the Ambessa, maybe something that has that extra damage to the point where, yeah, you're going to be able to exploit weaknesses in your other opponents in the top lane's play, but then you're going to be able to really make something out of it. Instead, Ornn, you don't get a lot of damage, you get a lot of tankiness, but if your opponents just evade that for the time being, that tankiness doesn't really bring too much to the table as once the rest of your team drops.
Yeah, especially when you can ignore it so easily, like the side of Gremory can, with the Ahri, with the Vi, with the Kaisa. And even Inorazu, who's unfortunately pretty squishy at this time due to not having all that much gold. Keeper's Verdict will get Rev out of there. Heroic Charge going to find the stun onto Sloth, and so the Orin Horn will be called. Knockup will not hit the mark, but Kamino Kaze, the one too far forward, will pay for the overextension from Gremory. They are sticking around, maybe try to find a little bit more. Sloth going to have to charge up to be able to escape, go invisible for a little bit. And so it is a 5v4 on the map in favor of Kamishiro. But no Drake up and available, and the Baron going to be quite a tough ask for them to take when it's only the support missing.
I mean, 23 minutes in, this is where you're kind of going to start seeing the damage being enough, but I don't necessarily think Kamishiro has that. Yes, we could possibly see Gremory do it in the future when you have that Rage Bait, that Nashers, and the Krakens are all online. Sloth with a 3-item power spike going to be absolutely out of this world.
Oh, yeah.
QST on the other side of things, only at 2 currently. We've seen it in the past where these ADCs can really play a massive role within the Ember League. I mean, I think the last 3 streams that I've been on here have all come down to these ADCs being the key factor, and I think that's something we're really going to be expecting in this series as well. Can Sloth continue to come online as well as they have? And if the answer continues to be yes, then they certainly can impress. But as of now, it's going to be a slow-paced fight towards everyone just scooping up towards this
teleport going to be dropped. It looks like Gremory wants to start the fight. Marth, the first one they're going to look at. Flag drag going to be interrupted. Sloth, the one to get the kill on a rampage. Inno going to just disrupt out QSC Psyduck. It's a really aggressive teleport from the world. Luckily, this Ornn is really tanky. Going to be stunned up, flashing away immediately, and instead QSC is going to be collapsed on 2. Sky Splitter, actually no, Rev the one to kill, and Sloth uses the killer instinct to find his way onto Goat Theory, who survives for just a little bit longer, staying at range under the tower. Now the world will call the Orin Horn. Finally, Rev gets the kill onto Goat Theory. Orin Horn hits multiple targets, but there's no follow-up whatsoever. Everyone's dead on the side of Kamishiro except for the world, and so without any of the damage, without any of the support, the world will have to, well, put the world on his shoulders to maybe find anything. Will get the knock up onto Sloth, will find a shutdown onto the Kaisa to be able to trade one back at the very least.
It was a rough team fight, I think. In general, Gremory, they don't want to play that. After finding those early few kills, they can just say, yeah, we got our lead, we don't need to keep on pressing it, but they attempted to press the advantage once the world came in, started coming in from the extremity up towards their own spawn. But what that leaves them is the opportunity to be able to just dip out anytime they want, as long as there's no CC locking them up, because of the fact that their gates are right there, as well as the turret. So when we saw the rest of Gremory trying to press the issue, the world taking no damage whatsoever off of the ult over the wall from the Volibear no longer gives them the opportunity to be able to dive towers easily.
Goat Theory a bit isolated. Goat Theory will be found out and deleted before we can do anything, but it's a really good Keeper's Verdict from Psyduck once again to be able to get the second Drake for Kamishiro. Can Kamishiro escape before any further damage comes through? And indeed they can. So they will trade Goat Theory for the Drake, but not exactly the worst possible trade ever.
Honestly, I mean, this might be a hot take, but I think you try and fight that. You had the Keeper's Verdict, were able to connect it onto Sloth, get them out of the fight. You were in a 4v4 at that point because you already lost Psyduck, but Psyduck is not nearly the win condition you need to be playing towards. If you try and take that 4v4, yes, Sloth is likely going to be able to pick you off if you keep it close.
Because the Baron started up in Inorazu, going to have to use the Stormbringer to be able to get away. Baron getting burnt down to a crisp by Sloth. Flag drag over, not going to be successful from Marth on the steal. And since Goat Theory only coming back up just now, Kamishiro not going to want to push any further into the 5-man of Gremory. And it'll give all 5 Baron buffs over to the blue side.
I think that was an exploitable fight. I mean, they were just got done doing the Baron. A lot of these players having a bunch of damage ticked onto them, so they're not really at the healthiest state. And beyond that, you had the Call of the Forge God connect onto 3. They really disrupted the backline. If you tried going for something like the Cataclysm onto maybe, say, the Kaisa, you could possibly had some really clean plays, but in general, they don't want to scrap it out, which I definitely have to respect them for. They didn't get greedy, and when you're down 2.5 gold or so, it definitely is a situation where you have to really start getting a lot more on the defensive, looking for these angles that are more, I guess, available to you. Play under the turret, wait for your opponents to play into you, but I mean, yeah, it's a lot of disciplined aggression that I do have to give a lot of respect to Kamishiro for. They're not trying to take overexertion, and maybe that'll end up working for him. Obviously, you still have a lot of gold on the world, as well as a little bit of an extra advantage in the mid lane. Nothing too hefty, though.
Yeah, Gremory going for this 1-3-1 setup with, hold on. Psyduck taking quite low, but with Artifact in the top lane and with Razu in the bot, he'll try to drag out Kamishiro to make their lines a bit thinner. The Stormbringer is available to Razu to be able to turn off this mid lane tier 1 should he choose to use it. Goat Theory, though, finally arriving to make it a 4v4 if they do go for a fight, which they do not. So they'll just take the mid tier 2 and continue the siege. Not going to be risking too much. We've got a Hui on the flank. Not exactly the most common setup that you see. Goat Theory, not quite entirely sure what the flanking Hui had in mind. Instead, is just found out by Sloth and pushed away. He's quite all right in the end. The mid lane tier 2 opened up. Does mean that we look up to Artifact down the top lane, winning out this 1v1 over the world. Doing quite a bit of damage now at 2 items. We now move over to the bot lane once again. It should be a repeat of the mid earlier, especially with how low it is. Kaze, though, going to be dragged in by the Hui. Though no further commitment from Kamishiro. Only the siege minion alive, so we're going to sit down and wait a little bit longer until anything else further comes.
The world, a crucial position to be in. You can't allow this RA to forfeit your life, but as of now, just looking to force this Baron buff into the bot lane with all of these players marching around. It is going to be the turret to fall up in topside as the Ori gets a little bit of extra gold to their own right.
Cause a hit by the Spiraling Despair. Goat Theory, the one to claim it with his ult. Psyduck going to use Evers get away, and it's a bit disjointed from Razu. Goes forward with the ult when all of his team had already been sent away. And so Ornhorn is called. It hits the mark onto Sloth. Importantly, flash forward from the road. Cataclysm does get a flash response from Sloth at range. Artifact goes back in with the Spirit Rush. Tries to find a charm. Won't quite get too much out of it. Marcel goes forward. Shut down. Claimed by the Jarvan, but goes a bit too far. Rev, the one to be able to trade it back 1-for-1. Sloth still alive, but very low. QST. The one to find the kill onto the Fed Kaisa. It was the angle that Kamishiro needed, but Psyduck once again hitting an incredible keeper's verdict.
Yeah, that was spectacular. That keeper's verdict, able to force the top lane top lane into that 1v4 situation. And as Gremory loses their only real tank, except for, I guess, your support, but they were also pushed away. It just became a situation where Kamishiro was just able to press the attack onto the Volley Bear, forcing them into a rough angle where they were alone. And as the TPs came in, yes, there was that re-engage. Yes, it looked good, but Gremory, they were not able to keep up the same level of play. Now, it is 2-for-2 on the Drakes. This is going to be a really impactful one.
Yeah, we've got teleports coming through. We've got our eyes on Psyduck, but Razu eventually coming to our screen now, hit by the Spiraling Despair. Will use the Stormbringer just to give himself a decent amount of health to be able to get back. Death sentence going to go through, but a good use of the heroic charge to prevent the follow-up of the death sentence. But now with Sloth and Kaze arriving, no ult from the Hui could prove difficult for the side of Kamishiro to be able to play out this fight. Artifact going to force Goat Theory to go golden. Ornhorn called, hits its way onto Kaze and Razu. The charge going to hit the mark, but on the flank, Rev caught out. Will get the Guardian Angel popped. Will buy some time. The revive comes through. The Lantern gets Rev out of there, but the burn a bit too much. Shutdown gets into the hands of Marth. No smite available for Gremory, but the health bars on the side of Kamishiro are decently low, though they're not blinking just yet. So Gremory just going to look towards the mid lane, trying to push in, try to get some value out of this play, but they might find themselves in a bit of trouble. The world going to be spotted on this flank. Here comes the rest of Kamishiro. It's a good use of the keeper's verdict once again from Psyduck to isolate Kamishiro. And eventually the world's got it, right? Yeah, there he goes. World finally claims it. And so Kamishiro find themselves on soul points, and Gremory caught out, trying to make a recovery out of a bad play, but instead just make it worse. And with Baron spawning, it could go from bad to worse to absolutely abysmal. But Rev is back up and on the map. Kamishiro, the only missing member of Gremory. They've got a lot of movement heading towards this Baron pit. They will be spotted out on the entry with the amount of vision that Kamishiro had laid down. Don't quite have vision on the amount of health that the Baron has. The Stormbringer comes in from Inorazu in the midst of everyone. 5k HP on the Baron. Inorazu dies immediately, but it is traded back. Sloth gets the kill onto Psyduck. Sloth at range. Sloth left completely untouched. And now getting second. Actually, Artifact the one to claim the second. Marth will get the kill onto Rev at range. Artifact goes back in, but Sloth caught out. Will use the Killer Instinct to get himself a shield and distance. Will try to speed up to get away. Severing Bolt not quite going to hit the mark onto the Kai'Sa. World traveling forward. The flag is enough to kill the Kai'Sa. The drag gets him within range of Artifact, but it's a really good lantern from Kamishiro to ensure that it doesn't become dire. But Baron in the hands of Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro.
Yeah, it was a similar situation to what we saw in the last team fight, right? It's been a kind of common factor where a lot of these players, they're starting to just focus the tank, and that comp doesn't really work when you're running this Vi, Ahri, Kai'Sa. I mean, we need to see a lot more disruption. The cease and desist haven't really been able to just constantly agitate the backline as you kind of expect, and that's something that really does come down to the mid laner. They've been super proactive, and when we look at this way, they have been a player who's constantly been evading damage. They have just been so good. I mean, they just don't allow these players to get onto them because they keep great spacing, and that's something that you really do have to give props for. And I think that's one of the reasons that Kamishiro is starting to take the lead now, is because these team fights refuse to go the way of Gregory, because they've just been really working with the world as well as the rest of these squishier players, making sure that they do stay out
it's a
of
good
harm's way.
use of the Stormbringer to dodge out the keeper's verdict. Goes untargetable. Teleports coming through now. All 5 members of Gremory showing up in the bot lane, but the damage has already been done to Rev and Razu. So Gremory, despite committing all 5 members to the bot lane, know that they've spent a lot of time. They don't know where the other members of Kamishiro are, so they back away, which is a wise decision considering QST and Marth were waiting in the wings to be able to collapse on that fight.
Not confirming the back though, electing to keep themselves in, and we highlight this Thresh, who gets super involved as the heroic journey
goes forward onto Kamishiro, who is burning down with this spiraling despair. Artifact going to be exhausted, not going to be doing as much damage for now. Charm going to hit the mark onto Goat Theory, finds the kill. Artifact the one to claim it, but we've got a really low Rev. Kamishiro also blinking health bar with Marth and QST arriving. It's a good stun from Psyduck to keep Inorazu away from QST. The one to finally get the kill onto the volley bear. It is 4v3 now in favor of Kamishiro. Pushing forward, will find the knockup onto Sloth. And so any hope that Gremory had to turn this fight around is dead with them. Artifact flashing backwards, but it does get the jukes onto Marth Stoner at the very least. So it works out in the end. But as a result of Sloth dying, Gremory going to have to hightail it on out of there.
Yeah, the flag and track won't be able to connect onto Artifact, leaving them in the dust, giving Artifact a little bit of a wiggle room, but we still do look at Marth chasing down in the jungle. So whether or not they do end up getting caught, answer is going to be no. They elect to use the teleport, a 360-second cooldown, so they won't have that for the time being, but they don't give the shutdown over towards their opponents, so you gotta give them credit where credit is due. Gremory, a little bit of a disappointing turn of events after being up around 3k gold, now being down 4.4. They've really been spiraling for the last while. I think that's something that really does come down to the mentality. They haven't been able to win a team fight in so long, and it's going to cause them to really start feeling a lot of despair.
You could say, in fact, that they're despair is spiraling from the goat's theory. Because okay, anyway, before we get to that, Rev in trouble, does have access to the guardian angel, so will be revived fairly soon, but it's a really early use of it. Orn, calm down. The revive won't keep him alive for long enough, and 2 quick kills go the way of QST. Cataclysm gets Sloth in trouble as well. 3 quick kills to Kamishiro. Artifact will do their best to escape, will be able to do so, but Kaminokaze will be the sacrificial land. Double kill over to the side of Marth. And so the despair of Gremory has spiraled even further out of control. Artifact, the only one left alive to be able to hold the line for Gremory, but it clearly won't be enough. Flag drag going to hit the mark. No Spirit Rush to save you this time around. Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro will stake their claim to the throne and have a pretty good time of it, and then put themselves in a very advantageous position at the end of game 1 as the victors.
Yeah, game 1 goes their way. Not very dominant from the start. It looked very, very okay, but towards that middle late game, they really did start coming alive, and that's something that we're likely going to be seeing as a theme for this team. It really came down to the team fights. I alluded to it earlier on in the draft phase. This is a team that when it comes to team fights, this composition really can thrive due to the fact that the world is playing that top laner, and they did it so perfectly. With the Ornn, they got ahead early, brought like a 1.5k advantage, and from there on out, they did not falter. And I think one of the main reasons for that was in the very first moments of the game, where we saw that 3v2 off of the Volibear TP down into bot lane. That was what led to an explosive rise in gold on that Ornn, as they were able to take a whole lot of just damage onto the turret, getting so many plates early on in topside. And when you leave an Ornn to go unchecked like that, it's going to cause them to be able to implode your opponents, right? You're not going to be able to get damage out. You're going to force so many ultimates from them, and that just kind of became the case. So much utility just spent on this Ornn throughout these team fights, as they were making sure everyone respected them. They made sure their opponents targeted them by being just so up close and personal with all of them.
Yeah, and I also think through the mid game, what helped bridge that gap especially was Psyduck on the Poppy. I mean, considering that the side of Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro found themselves down so many times throughout that game, the fact that Psyduck was able to negate that by finding a few of these keepers' verdicts, by making these fights numbers advantage into the favor of Kingdom of Kittens of Kamishiro, and the fact that the Gremory didn't quite respect that as much as they needed to, it really is what allowed Kamishiro to be able to get to this late game and to be able to, well, to do precisely what they did at the end.
Yeah, it just looked great from them, and I think that's something we're going to be seeing as a common theme. It looked good. See what game number 2 does come back with. Will we see game 3? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Both these two teams looked good, but I want to see a little bit more team cohesion from the side of this blue squad. We'll see whether or not they can make that comeback as we go to short little break. So ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you all later. Peace out.
After a game one that could be best described as a seesaw, we're back for more action here in the Ember Blaze League, continuing on the civil war between the Kingdom of Kittens, between Kamishiro and Gremory. Kamishiro eventually outscaling into that game to be able to win it and put themselves on match point, Cherry.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a good game number 2. We'll see whether or not they can make the comeback. Obviously, game 1, little bit of a rough start. We got to imagine that a lot of this is going to come down to will they be able to maybe find a little bit of a simpler way. And I think Kamishiro, off of that game 1 win, they're already looking like this is going to be a very good composition from them. The Ash Seraphine definitely fits with the notion of what they've already described to us, which is they want to play front to backs. They don't want to go for anything fancy. They don't want to try and run anything crazy. They're just going to go full throttle into you and hope to win. Now, the Xin Zhao Mel, this could work. It's going to require a lot of that Xin Zhao being able to go into the backline, disrupt the Ash, disrupt the Seraphine. But if you hit that crystallized arrow, both of those players can get melted fast.
Ooh. Pantheon the hover from Kingdom of Kittens, Gremory. Waiting on it. I mean, with Xin Zhao already locked in, the obvious assumption for it would be for it to go up to the top lane, but there's also potential maybe for the Pantheon to go support. We've seen a rise in mages in the bot lane as well. The Mel going into the Ash Seraphine is a potential option. The rebuttal does a decent job of being able to counter what Ash Seraphine really likes to do, because obviously the synergy comes from Ash being very easily able to land slows, and then the beat drop follows up to ensure snares and stuns if you use a double cast of it. But the Mel also being able to send that back the other way could see you getting rooted by your own abilities, and also post level 6, the rebuttal definitely puts a lot more of caution on the Seraphine to be able to just rip an encore into the midst of everyone.
Yeah, the Nocturne makes sense. It's a strong pickup that might lead to an Orianna lock-in. We'll have to wait and see. They're going to ban out the Orianna under the assumption that's going to get locked in. So, yeah, I mean, Nocturne, definitely one of the stronger junglers on this patch. It is interesting that they banned out the Wukong. That feels like something they'll be right in their wheelhouse with the kind of compositions that they like to draft, but I guess not. So, as we do look towards the Gremory squad, we'll see what they do into blocking in. They do still have that Pantheon, which could definitely be in a plethora of locations, but overall, they're going to ban out the mid lane, going for the Galio ban. And so, there's a lot of interesting points. I think that the main one for me is that double mid lane ban, making the assumption that this Mel is not even going to be having a chance to be placed there, completely opting in for the idea that it's in support.
I would think it's probably as the bot lane carry.
Yeah, that's also feasibility. I don't know. It's just interesting. I would have thought that they might ban more towards the top side because they don't have that real information just yet.
I mean, blind Mel feels just frankly feels awful these days, especially with Ahri no longer available in a fearless draft. I mean, that is mainly what Mel is, the Ahri counter, because you just send a charm right back her way and then continue to burst her down. And so without that available, I feel like the assumption that the Mel, Echo and Malzahar the hovers, but now Echo the lock-in for the side of Kingdom of Kittens Gremory.
Yeah, that definitely makes me think the Pantheon's going to be the jungle, and this last pickup definitely will conclude it. Oh,
I mean, Xin Zhao's locked in, though.
No.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hold up. Wait, we're just going crazy. Wait,
okay,
hold
so
up.
Pantheon support, Mel, ADC, and then...
Okay, yeah. Let's go. I was right. Let's go. And Mundo... Okay, wait, well, Echo mid. Mundo top. And then Xin Zhao in the jungle. But Kingdom of Kittens and Gremory are gone for. Very short range.
There's a lot of confusion for me here, but I do like the Dr. Mundo top. Assuming that these are the actual sides, because I have a feeling that this might be the wrong team. I could be wrong. But it feels like Kamishiro would be a lot more willing to draft this blue side comp. Gremory, this is like a completely new beast for them, though.
I mean, compared to game one, sure. I'm trying to look at like the bans away because with the Yasuo and the Yone ban on like what is under the Kamishiro name, I would assume that the sides are correct.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
that those are the artifact champions that they didn't want to face like they did in game one. So I am assuming that it is correct based on that. Those are some pretty dead giveaways to me anyway. But I do take your meaning that it is a somewhat fairly different look from Kingdom of Kittens Gremory, at least in the top lane with the Dr. Mundo going to be getting a lot of scaling, but I don't know if it's necessarily as different as I mean, it's definitely very different in terms of like what they've drafted, but like stylistically that it's a very short range disruptive style of team comp that wants to get in there and cause chaos. The way that they're going to do it is going to look a bit different than what they tried to do in game one, but like in terms of what it wants to do, it is somewhat similar in that regard, if that makes sense.
My reasoning comes down to the top lane, because I'm looking at Kamishiro. They locked in the Ornn last game, a very team sufficient character that doesn't like to play for themselves too often. This time around, completely going off of third base, going for the Yorick, somebody who solely likes to play by themselves in solo lanes, going to try and just split push. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the Dr. Mundo coming in, it's like the same thing, right? They were playing the Volibear, somebody who likes to get a lot of damage, likes to solo kill, likes to get in early. Now the Mundo, somebody who is, again, the complete opposite, very similar to something like that Ornn, who just looks to help in team fights, be that tankiness, be that pillar, be that final stand that's going to look to soak up all the damage. But I mean, yeah, I agree. It's probably not messed up in anything, but it's a very good. I like these comps. I like these comps a lot more than game one. I don't know if it's crazy to say that, but I do.
I think also another thing to point out with the Dr. Mundo is that when you take a look on the side of Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro, assuming that this game does take a while to go through and the world, I'm sorry, not Inorazu is not completely out of the game. And so much so that it's just basically completely starved of any sort of goal. If this game goes long enough to where Dr. Mundo can, get 2 items, get 3 items, who on the side of Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro is going to be able to handle this Mundo?
We'll just have to wait and see. Bide our time for the time being. I think that it's realistically going to be left up to somebody like the Ashe, the Nocturne, to just run them down. But for the most part, there's a lot of tankiness on the side of Gremory, right? There's a lot of characters that have that sufficiency. It's out to the Mel, but even the Mel has that rebuttal to be able to evade a lot of these utilities. Speaking of like the Ashe era, the everything from the Seraphine practically, the Yorick as well, not going to be able to trap them too easily. But I mean, I think Kamishiro can definitely win this, though. It's just going to come down.
Projectile?
No, but they probably can get away from it.
I maybe not so much that one. Actually, I wonder how that works with the E, with the fact that like with the rebuttal. Does Mel also get little ghouls if it comes back and hits the Yorick?
I'm thinking about it. I have to imagine that it doesn't affect it, but
surely not, right?
Could not give a concrete answer on that.
Yeah, it's definitely not the most like vital rebuttal targets if it comes your way, but it's just a thought that entered my mind when you mentioned the Yorick. I was like, I wonder if I don't think I would be surprised if Mel got little ghouls that jump back the other way, but I don't know, maybe
that'd be cool. I don't know, maybe make them like orange for Mel's character.
Yeah, we need to give a DM over to John Riot to have that in the game if it's not. But I think with that, we are going to send it to a break for the spectator delay. But when we come back, we will be bringing you game 2 here in this cat fight between Kamishiro and Gremory, between the 2 Kingdom of Kittens teams here in the Ember Blaze League. So see you in a bit. And we've loaded on to the Rift for game 2 here in the Ember Blaze league between Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro and Kingdom of Kittens Gremory. Our game 1 was very hectic. And considering what Gremory have gone for with their draft, picking up that Echo mid, we don't want to try to make it as chaotic as it was in game 1.
I think that's going to be very feasible, right? They just have to be a little bit more proactive across the board. Honestly, though, I like this game. I think that game number 1 was pretty close. Down towards the end, though, it definitely did start getting a little bit more
and they're going to look for it immediately. Psyduck going to be ignited immediately. The heal comes through, going to be reduced from the Grievous runes applied from said ignite. Flashed, used by Sloth and Psyduck. So even in flashes, but not in health bars.
Yeah, that was a great play. You gotta imagine, Sloth, they almost were able to just expend all of QST's summoner spells for nothing practically, but in the end, they do flash themselves. A little bit of an overexpense, and it's gonna cause them a little bit of detriment, you gotta imagine. But overall, I mean, you have a lot of good stuff happening across the board. There's a good beginning for this bot lane, the top side. I mean, if I'm this Mundo, all I'm going to be looking for is staying even. You're not going to be expecting to win in lane against Yorick. You're going to want to just try and keep yourself alive. That way you don't give them this overflow of cash going into that mid game where they're able to just become a threat that requires 2 to 3 people to just neutralize them while trying to split push.
Yeah, and I mean, but that is the reason why Yorick is a very common counter pick into the Dr. Mundo. Is so much stronger through the early and mid game and can definitely make it very hard for the Dr. Mundo to get to his goals where he pleases points of the game. And while if the game does go long enough, obviously inevitably Dr. Mundo will do Mundo things. But in terms of options, Yorick definitely a really good one to be able to prevent that. I mean, not unless you take a tower shot like that and take away your health advantage in one quick move.
It's just a good start for sure. Gremory, they're having a little bit of an
flash forward from Kamino cause a burst down, finds its way onto Psyduck, who had flash away in that level 1. Gremory's bot lane starting off strong once again.
And it's a strong start as this Pantheon just comes throwing themselves into the fray. And with that early kill going the way of Gremory, they take the lead, they put themselves up. Sloth is now 500 gold over QSD, and the Ashe is a character who, yes, they can play well in team fights, but in terms of their damage, they're really only good in the early game. Once you get towards that mid to late part of it, they don't really get as much of a power spike as a lot of other ADCs. Look towards Caitlyn, the Misfortune. A lot of them will get that overflow of damage. Meanwhile, QST, they're supposed to be doing good now, and unfortunately for them, they're going against a Mel who is going to really like to punish.
Yeah, and that's what I was excited for this bot lane, and when I saw it, because a lot of the advantage from the Ashe Seraphine that it is such a strong lane, and against just about any other conventional bot lane, it basically pushes out and it wins out. And so the only way to do it, to beat it out, is to play unconventionally and do something odd. And with how easy it is for the Pantheon to be able to set up the snare from the Mel, and how easy it is to just drop down an insane amount of damage when both champs do a full spell rotation onto a single target. I mean, we saw it twice now already with Psyduck, and if it keeps up, it's not going to get any better for him.
Yeah,
the double ignites in the mid lane. Artifact gets a kill onto Goat Theory, but the return ignite not going to be enough to be able to kill Artifact. So quickly, it goes 2-0 up to the side of Gremory once again.
Yeah, Artifact solely staying alive due to that heal factor after getting the kill, and it's not ideal for sure. It's going to cause them to be in a pretty rough spot now. However, they look towards the CS. They're both pretty similar, and it's actually going to be Artifact barely even up a little bit of gold.
Yeah, and we did kind of see this last time around as well, with the Ahri kind of falling really far behind in gold, despite getting a few of those early kills. Kind of negated. Oh, QST, I thought for a second may have been slightly tagged there, but it's all right. Kind of negated the gold that they got from the kills, though. I guess if you are falling far behind, Enzo Radu in trouble, going to be stuck in the arena. The world going to find a solo kill in return to bring this gold deficit back towards even a bit more. Marth showing up in the bot lane, pre-level 6 on the gank, will tag Sloth. Psyduck going forward, will get the beat drop, snare, and kill dropping down onto Sloth. Kamishiro already way too low to be able to think about a counter gank from Rev.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we were expecting coming into this matchup, right? The world, somebody who was so proficient last game on a not so carry champ, now moving into game number 2 on a very carry champ. So they're looking great. They're looking like a player who can really just turn this whole game on its head, and if they can do exactly that, then we're likely going to be seeing them making a big wave coming into this. And there needs to be a splash coming in from either Artifact or Sloth, the two characters who are, or not two characters, but the two players who are so far, at least to a certain extent, ahead. They both have a kill on their players, and you know, it's not the worst situation in the
really
world.
low, will have to dodge out the W from Rev, but now onto the Drake. A smite fight comes early from Marth, and with how low it was, he dies. QST, not sure what you're doing there, but Artifact the one to claim the kill. 2-0 in favor of Gremory.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's phenomenal. I mean, you look at Rev, somebody who came into this, maybe not the highest ranked player, the lowest ranked player in the lobby, and they just said, yeah, I'm going to completely turn around from game 1. They take the Drake, they flip it in their favor, and that's something that really does come with a lot of practice, a lot of time, so you got to give them credit where it is due. They're doing a completely different performance than what we saw in game number 1. I give them a massive amount of credit for being able to take this. They also force the sidestep when they drop the wind becomes lightning, perfectly forcing some just weird movement, and that gives Kamishiro a little bit of that disruption. So Gremory, they take the sweep. They're 500 gold. Question now becomes, can they continue? This is a very similar situation to what we saw in game number 1, where they're up 3k at that 10 to 15 minute mark, but then it just flipped around. This time, I mean, I could continue to see that being the case. I think this bot lane is very strong. They're not likely going to give QST any real opportunities, and that's something that, I mean, Gremory, they were very good at last time.
Yeah, but Summer, you mentioned that the world is on a champion that can really take over a game with the Yorick. Is already 1k gold up. I mean, it's the real reason why the gold is as even as it is so far, and we'll see 3 moving up to the top side. On the side of Gremory, trying to find a kill onto the world, trying to alleviate some of the pressure onto Enzo Razu. And you wouldn't come lightning, hits the mark onto the world, and Kamishiro will be the one to claim it.
Yeah, it was a great job. Gremory now, they keep up the pace. They take down the world. They don't give them that excess of gold they were looking for. They force the respect out of them by saying, yeah, you're not going to be allowed to overextend. You're not going to be allowed to force us to, you know, bend to your will, and that's something that really does need to be shown early on. Gremory now, they're
He's in
the
trouble
lead.
though. Paranoia going to drop, stuck under tower, but it's a good rebuttal. Finds the Onker, going its way back on the Psyduck, who's hitting up with the tower aggro, and a second, third, fourth tower shot comes through in favor of Gremory to be able to find one's back. Kamishiro now arriving in the bot lane. Psyduck and QST very low. Ignite drops onto the Ashe. Kamishiro finds the kill and pushing forward, tries to get onto Psyduck, but the shield vault, quite a long cooldown at this point in time, won't quite be able to continue the advantage he's got.
We saw Sloth doing a phenomenal job on the Kaisa the last game. This game doing the same exact thing. Their play on this Mel has just been superb, with the rebuttal after getting dived into, then reflecting Psyduck's encore to be able to get them that lack of damage. Then when their support comes in, they're able to lock up the opposing jungler, and as Marth gets hit by that lockup coming in from the hit to stun, it just allows them to get that kill without any real pushback. Now Gremory, they're up over 1,000 gold. They're gonna have a lot of opportunity to be able to just force this next Drake, and if they can go up 2-0 on that Drake count, I would not be surprised by any means if they can just snowball the game into a game 3 showing.
Especially when you've got a 1.3k gold lead, when you spike so much sooner compared to the side of Kamishiro, would definitely be very much in the hands of Gremory. At least assuming there isn't a big setup. The world, though, going to be targeted from the Grand Starfall of KoK. And once again, the support of Gremory going to pick up a kill, sitting now 4-0-3, but continuing to alleviate the pressure for Inorazu.
This is certainly flipping on its head. And I mean, I mentioned it earlier, and we're going to continue to reiterate it. The question becomes, at this point, will Gremory do the same thing they saw in the last game? Will they fumble under the pressure like that has been a consistent thing for them? And I think one of the main things that will likely be a big cause of that, if it does end up happening, is going to be the world, who will be looking to split push from the rest of the team, forcing these 4v5s, but
in a bit of trouble, taking down half HP. Marth moving down towards the bottom half of the map, does have Paranoia once again. Drake spawning up, and I do believe Marth actually going to be spotted out by Artifact, who's pressing forward. Will just fully commit onto Psyduck. Encore going to hit the mark, but won't save the Seraphine. KoK finds a shield vault onto Marth, and will be the stun from the Annie that will kind of prevent him from running away. But the other members of Gremory have arrived, and since they are missing their support, the second Drake of the game very comfortably going to the hands of Gremory.
Just taking this Drake, I mentioned it, they are a team that has been so dominant on bot side. Sloth has been a masterclass performer when it comes down to it, and that's been one of the main win conditions the team's played for in game 1 and game 2
alone. Artifact does press R, but is finding himself close to QST. Rev goes really deep. Finally, Artifact does go down, and now on the wrong side of the map is Rev, disjointed from the other members of Gremory. Finally catches up with Sloth and KoK. She can still continue to push forward. Good rebuttal will get the stun back over to the Annie, and whoa, okay, Psyduck completely removed from the map. The amount of burst available to Gremory on a very squishy Seraphine is able to turn around over to the side of Gremory.
Yeah, it's really just initiated off of KoK, who just pulls everything forward.
Sloth flashes forward, finds the snare onto QST, who sticks around too long. His team had already gotten out of there, but still greeds for yet another wave. The story of just every ADC's player's experience. I'm not innocent in that regard either, so still not great from QST.
They are now going to be pushing up Goat Theory.
Now Artifact going to get himself a shield. Gets the stun as well. Artifact finds a solo kill into Goat Theory.
Yeah, they're now pushing up. Artifact looking to take this plate off the tower. Now backing up, conceding this aggression, and waiting for the rest of the waves to come in. And as the Yorick now switching up positions from topside down towards mid lane, it's going to force this Echo to be a little bit more wary. They're going to still be able to get out of the cage if it does end up setting them up, as they do have that dash forward. But overall, still is going to be up towards topside with this.
Oh my gosh, KoK just has so much gold from kills alone. Already has that Umbral Glaive completed. Very aggressive itemization, but it works out. Very rarely do you see the support solo invading the jungler and coming out the victor of it, but that's exactly what he had there. 5-0-5 on the Pantheon.
Yeah, and they don't even have the Blood Song yet, something that will really help with them being that assassin looking to get these threats on lock. And this has not been the first time they've done it. They have 5 kills, 5 assists, 0 deaths.
We'll use it on the wave, so we'll have no way to stop this dive coming through. Teleport up to the top lane from the Yorick. Will come through, but this might be a bit ill-advised. There's no top lane tier 1 tower anymore to save. It's good use of the arena to stop the advance from Gremory. Marth going to arrive with the Paranoia, doing his best to burst his way down onto the Pantheon, who flashes away, gets the distance needed to be able to get the kill onto Marth as well. It's getting way out of hands of Kamishiro. Find himself 5k gold down now.
Certainly seems that Game 3 will be on the ropes, and it's everything you'd expect. These two teams, and they're made by the same org, Kingdom of Kittens, putting them both together, and with them both in this league at 1-1 apiece. I mentioned it earlier in the first game draft. These two teams both 1-1 overall in their record. They are looking to keep themselves afloat, keep themselves positive.
Yeah, we'll both be looking for that, but Psyduck, unaware that the parallel convergence is coming through, Artifact picks up the kill onto the support of Kamishiro. This one's definitely feeling like a Belgium against the US from last night, at least this game too, because Kamishiro not putting up much of a fight at all here in this game too. Now down 6k gold when just like a minute ago it felt like they were down 5k. Bot lane tier 1 tower also going to be collapsing as well. It's I guess not technically over, and there's still potentially a decent amount of time left in this game, only at the 16-minute mark, but it is very dire for Kamishiro here in game 2.
I mean, this point, Rev stuck in the
Okay,
middle.
Rev found too far forward. Good use of the Crescent Guard to deny any sort of damage, and now the response from Artifact gets the kill onto Psyduck once again. Going a bit forward from the side of oh my gosh, the Pantheon. Kaminokaze does go a bit too far, does give a shutdown over to QST.
And QST able to get out with their life intact. However, the damage has been dealt. They find a kill. Both supports fall down. Now going for the back on this jungler. They're looking to refresh, possibly go up for that Herald up and at him. But with a lot of the players now poised towards it, you got that Nocturne over there. You got your Annie up towards top lane. There's definitely going to be a real chance they can steal this over from Rezu. But does go down to 4k HP. The Mel now coming in, looking to close this one out. No contestation, and it is just going to be the Herald to fall. So, Gremory, they've so far collected all 4 objectives without any real contestation. This has been a constant issue that we've been seeing from this Kamishiro squad in game number 2, which I'm really concerned about, because on paper, I mean, this is a team that had such a good showing in game number 1. They should not be in this deficit, but overall, it's really just been...
Flashes away, but a shield vault comes through from Kaminokaze, slowly getting burst down. Finally, the Lethality Pantheon going to do its thing. Gets yet another kill, 6th of the game for Kaminokaze. And yeah, Rift Herald summon up in the mid lane. It's going to open up the mid tier 2 tower. Oh wait, yep, right, no, there it goes. Finally, they do get it. At the very least, there's response. Bot lane tier 1 going to be into the hands of Artifact, going to be killed in the midst of it, but still has access to ult. But yeah, at the very least, bottom lane, in the bottom lane, the Worlds will be able to pick up an objective bounty on the bot lane tier 1 as a bit of a consolation prize. But now spotted out by Kaminokaze. And the rest of Gremory will eventually come through. Paranoia comes through, try to find the kill onto the support of Gremory, in which they do. Razu going to be hit by the Encore, going to be CC'd down, eventually shut down, going into the hands of the World. Goes even further forward now, but snared up under the tower. Rev comes back forward. The tower shot going to be enough to find the kill. Sloth the one to claim it with the Golden Eclipse, just to get that little extra tick over to secure the fact that it goes the way of Gremory. So Kamishiro definitely get a little bit out of that play.
I mean, we see the World falling again. They're back up to being ahead in the gold department, but it's still something that we can highlight. The fact that they are getting taken down. It's Gremory who've been very good at being able to shut them down before they get to ahead. And I mean, that's one of the players that really is going to be a big shine through for the rest of the team to play behind, right? Not a whole lot of gold on your ADC or your support or your mid lane at that matter. I mean, the jungler, yes, they've been playing pretty good. However, your Nocturne is not going to be one of the players who's going to be able to find a lot of damage, be able to output a lot of stats. They're going to be somebody who's going to be very good at initiating engagements, especially when it comes to their ultimate now on the board.
Yeah, but the World going to be targeted once again. That's the thing when you're a York and the only one on your team who's done just about of anything of note in this game. all Gremory have to do is send 2 members up to the top lane, and the world dies once again here in game 2. And it really is that simple for the side of Gremory, despite how the world had performed up till now.
At this point, we just look towards the bot side, though, going in with these ultimates now, getting rid of the spell shield, initiating the arrow. It's an early kill, and both top lanes now dead, going to cause the split pushing to be relaxed for the time being, and it's likely going to be a just standstill for the next few moments, right? It's going to be the
Baron's up and available. Yeah,
no,
that's worth
challenge.
Absolutely worth. I mean, fair play from the side of Kamishiro to try to make a play, any sort of play, get themselves some gold back. They get the kill onto Inarazu. But for the Baron, it's just kind of comes to the point when it's gone as badly as it has done for Kamishiro. That no matter what you do, there's going to be a response somewhere, and it would have to take that much to be able to kill Inarazu. So definitely would have to give the Baron over, unfortunately. And so Gremory now going to be able to push in even more. I don't really think the 1.2k gold lead in the lane matchup for Inarazu going to be enough to be able to turn this around for Kamishiro.
I mean, you got a big lead. You got the Baron on your side. At this point, Gremory should be able to put the nail in the coffin and send us to game 3. One would have to imagine, with how this has been going out, the world has not been able to put up the same level of dominance we saw in game number 1, and that's caused the rest of the team to have a lackluster time being able to avoid some of these real carries, like the support, who, I mean, has just been completely just dominating on the Rift tonight.
Yeah, I mean, KoK also in that game 1, a really large reason why on the Poppy, with a few of those keepers' verdicts that Kamishiro was able to do exactly what they did. Hold on, I'm misremembering. Hold on, I'm misspeaking. Wait, yeah, Kamishiro. Yeah, no, KoK. No, it's Psyduck on the Poppy. What am I talking? You know what? Is what it is. No, but still, the support so far. Before we get to that mid lane, for the adjustment of that statement, teleports coming through. The paranoia going to be used a bit defensively, but will find their way onto QST. Encore going to be immediately rebutted, sent back the other way, returned to Cinder. And despite the fact that it looked good to hit multiple targets, in fact it did, but it went back to the their own targets on the side of Kamishiro. It is an ace going to be picked up by Gremory, seeing themselves up 7.7k gold. It's going to expand even further. Considering they've got everyone off the board, they might even just look to end here.
Yeah, this is literally probably one of the more dominant games I've seen in all of Ember Esports this season. I mean, this has not really had any opportunities for Kamishiro to be able to make that comeback, and I think that's something that really does need to be reevaluated from this team, right? They need to be able to come back into game number 3 a little bit more prepared, I think, because a lot of this did come down to just this bot lane getting overwhelmed and exploited. After that, Drake's got punished. The Void Crubs had no contestation whatsoever. The Herald had no contestation whatsoever. It was just the Mundo who was able to solo it. Then, when it came to the Baron, it was the exact same thing, where the entirety of the team was just focused on the Mundo, and then that just allowed that free Baron to come through. So it's a lot of these little things, right? You need to be able to get your jungler a little bit more proactive. The vision needs to be a little bit better. You gotta have this mid laner not dying to the what was it, the ignite early on. I think it was like 2 minutes in. We already saw this Echo being able to find the solo kill, utilizing the ignite and being able to just strike while the iron's hot. This team did not let go of the gas pedal and just constantly just pushed so well.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, KoK definitely filling that role as those early kills, most damage for the Pantheon support. I think it just about sums it up perfectly. I mean, technically, Inarazu did do more damage, but at least for the side of Kingdom of Kittens Gremory, it just how much KoK was able to spread the gold lead from the early kill, and then using the Grand Starfall, showing up just everywhere on cooldown, and put the side of Kamishiro so far behind. And I mean, the gold graph really tells the story of the game just about perfectly. Dominance from the side of Kingdom of Kittens. Kamishiro have now laid equal claim to the throne of the Kingdom of Kittens. We'll have one more final deciding game to see who will be wearing the crown of this org here in week 3 of the Ember Blaze League. We will find out soon with the draft after the short break. So don't go anywhere. See you in a little bit. And we are back for the draft of Game 3, the final game of this Kingdom of Kittens Civil War here in the Ember Blaze League between Kamishiro and Gremory. Kingdom of Kittens Gremory in Game 2, utterly dominant.
Yeah, I think we look at that game and we're kind of expecting this to be a strong start from the side of this Gremory squad. They had a very, very dominant game too, so I think that that's really going to be able to skyrocket the morale and the general play coming into game number 3. We'll hope that this is closer than game 2. I mean, game 1, very back and forth, very good. Towards the end, it did definitely go to Kamishiro's way when they were just able to play behind the Orin and just spectacularly execute plays through and through. But now coming into game number 3, we see the Jinx locked in. Kamishiro possibly looking to do the same thing that they ran in game number 1, but the Blitzcrank gets locked in to counter it.
Blitzcrank, Drake, do it. Do it. Do it. Right now. Just lock it in. All right, let's go. Blitzcrank Draven for Kingdom of Kittens Gremory. I mean, into the Jinx. They know exactly how it's going to work. Blitzcrank Draven have to get early kills. They have to get this train rolling to be able to prevent the Jinx from going late and to take over the game, which, to be fair, is exactly how they played in Game 2, which they saw their absolutely massive win. So we'll see what they can do with it. Braum, though, the hover and the lock-in for the side of Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro.
It's kind of expecting Lulu to go with it. I think that might have been a little bit more proficient, but the Braum definitely works. I think that the Blitzcrank in Draven, though, I mean, I feel like it's too early to say it, but definitely Gremory is looking good for this game. The Draven pick in general is just so good. This is a player who has been phenomenal tonight, and I think putting them on such a carry champ can really put the hurt on the side of Kamishiro.
Sejuani going to be the lock-in for Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro as their B3 pick. Going to be getting some very useful engage, potentially find an angle on to the Draven. That being said, the response from Kingdom of Kittens Gremory going to be the Amumu. Definitely has a lot of team fighting potential with the Curse of the Sad Mummy.
Yeah, I mean, if they group up, you can just kill all of them. And I think Kamishiro, that has been one of their issues in the past. It really was something that allowed this Gremory squad to get ahead in game one, but game two, it really didn't even matter. It was just them dominating through and through. We look towards the bans now. Xerath going to be the next thing out. We've seen the Silas banned out in the second phase pretty consistently. Gremory not going to be able to have that as an option now, and see whether or not that is going to impact how they look to play this. Obviously, the Amumu, there's a lot of AP, but it's a lot of tankiness in general, so it does get a lot of flexibility between what your mid lane is going to pick, right? If it's an AD jungler, you're really going to want to go for that AP side in your mid lane. That way you're not going to be forcing out just that armor to come in from your opponent mid laner, and then it's a little bit rough. Amumu gives you a lot of flexibility in that aspect. Now with the Akali getting banned out as well as this Olaf, it truly struggles in the top side as there's going to be a little bit less on that just execution path, but the Mordekaiser locked in, likely going to be in the top lane.
I mean, yeah, it already lock in a blind Mordekaiser for the side of Gremory, though it is what Inorazu plays quite a bit. It's the reason why I was banned out in game one. So the response from Kingdom of Kittens Kamishiro is to pick up a Zahin for themselves. But oh gosh, do you ever just have a thought that like leaves your brain that you focus on, and then it was just gone? Oh shoot, what was it? Oh no. Um, Gosh darn. But yeah, Zahin going to be the lock in for the side of Kingdom King's Kamishiro. Oh, the mid lane pool. The mid lane pool of Artifact is part maybe the reason why that Gremory went for the Mordekaiser blind, because in terms of what Artifact has played in solo queue so far, the list includes Yasuo, Yone, Hui, Ari, and Akali. None of which with the Akali ban. Sorry, I mentioned Silas also after the Akali, but none of which aren't available to them anymore after all the bans and the what you call it, the fearless having been previously played, are all going to be unavailable to Artifacts. So Nefiri could potentially be the option for them. They are hovering it.
Yeah, this it's an interesting Nefiri. I mean, there's a lot of real power play you can get with this character. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where that's going to lock. I think if mid lane's kind of the necessary, but you usually do see in the jungle nowadays. So see how that does end up playing out. I think generally, on paper, I don't know. Well, okay. I think from how the series has been playing out, Gremory has a massive advantage, but the Zahin pick can easily be the kill factor for Kamishiro. I'm looking at the Zahin, I'm looking at the Draven. Whoever does better this game will win their team the match.
Yeah, the Grim Deliverance is the amount of times I've seen Zahid just go into the middle of everybody with seemingly like only 100 health left, but it hits the mark onto 4 people. All of a sudden, his health's completely back full, and everyone else's health is completely gone. It's pretty disgusting if you can land those marks. They've got a lot of setup for that as well with the Sejuani, with the Braum. But on the side of Kingdom of Kittens Gremory, I mean, the Blitzcrank Draven, we already touched on it. I mean, when you see Blitzcrank Draven locked in, the entire game just it rotates around these two, no matter what else is locked in. So
yeah, I think that this definitely could be good from either of these teams. The Amumu Nefiri having a lot of dive potential, especially when it comes to the ultimates. They can really start to put the hurt on. And if we can really just look at that and we can think, all right, Nefiri, if you can pull out something out of the hat with that Hound's Pursuit onto somebody like the Aurora, onto the Jinx, and not allow that Braum to intercept you, maybe this will work, but we'll wait to see what will end up happening. Will Gremory be able to make this reverse sweep in a best of 3 happen? Will Kamishiro be able to pull off this win? Obviously, on paper, Gremory, they have a little bit more experience in the season so far playing these long, drawn-out series as they had one which they lost just a few days ago, but they are going to have to make this redemption now. But we will have to wait and see what will inevitably happen as we go to a short little break. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon with the game.
And we have loaded on to the Rift for the final time tonight here in the Civil War of the Kingdom of Kittens. Both Kamishiro and Gremory going to be looking to claim the crown of the kingdom. But coming into this one thing I want to point out is the fact that Artifact is playing on the Nefiri. Not exactly something that is in Artifact's champ, has been a really big focus from the side of Kamishiro. And with, oh gosh, the double, oh no. Oh, you hate to see that.
It's already a little bit on the weirder side, but nothing too crazy just yet.
I don't know. I feel like double ward in the middle brush in the bot lane mid brush. Actually, is that like the official? Do we have a name for that? The different brushes in like the bot lane and top lane, like around the alcove when they were added. How knows long ago? I don't know. Whatever it is, the double ward's in the same bush regardless at the very start. It doesn't feel great. It feels kind of awful if you are a Kamishiro's bot lane. And well, what will continue to feel pretty bad is, well, the fact that you got a Draven Blitzcrank up against you, and the only window you'll have to do much of anything is if Kamishiro throws out a hook and misses.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I don't know.
She won't do with that first one. Hits the mark onto KoK. Ignite drops immediately. Barrier response comes through to ensure that the kill doesn't. But the exhaust already used level 2 hit by Sloth and Kamishiro. Oof. Kamishiro's bot lane in a world of hurt.
Yeah, this is just a basic situation of we're getting that Draven, pushing under tower, Blitzcrank, looking for the hook, looking to try and punish, but unfortunately for them, there's just so many minions disrupting any opportunities. Up in top side, I mean, the world not have the optimal situation. They're going to try and engage once that turret does become 1 HP, and so when they try and go for the cannon turret, it's just not going to be able to deal with the Zaheen, who's just completely doing their own thing right now. But yeah, I'm loving this Mordekaiser play. They're going to be able to proc the passive after both connecting their Q and E, so after that they're just going to be able to say, yeah, get out, we're going to be able to keep dishing out this damage, and if you don't deal with it, then you don't deal with it.
Once again going to hit the mark onto QST. Luckily Psyduck is close enough to be able to hop on top of KoK, throw out the Unbreakable, and prevent a little bit more damage coming through. But the World taking down both flashes used by Inorazu and the World just to follow up. But the World now taken very dangerously low, being the one that took the Ignite in the matchup as well, won't have access to the teleport.
Yeah. Looking at this mid lane going invisible, and with this turn, it is now just going to be Gremory under the turret, Artifact trying to build up health with that heal potion, but it is just going to be that basic toss and turn as QST half HP. Sloth able to start punishing him for it by pushing up, scaling with their own passive. Now procced, Psyduck looking for any type of angle. Sloth actually going to be taking a little bit of poke from QST.
Rev does have 2 amp tones on the recall. Smite comes down. I'm pretty sure that went into the hands of Rev, so it will not be a double scuttle for Marth. And with the item component advantage, Rev very easily going to win out on this 1v1 flash over the wall. Artifact will be the one to claim it with Inorazu roaming down. Goat Theory in a world of trouble, but the World does arrive and pulls back Rev with the dreaded return. Obliterate not going to kill off Goat Theory, but Inorazu ticking down the World, who does have access to the revive upon the health bar disappearing. Ignite not quite going to finish off Inorazu. Dreaded return does hit the mark, and there's enough damage for the World to find the kill onto the opposing top laner. Double kill for the World. Looking to put the World on his shoulders and send Kamishiro up 3-1.
And 3-1 Kamishiro now. I mean, it is a complete resurgence from game number 2. After having a rough time being able to play out, now it is going to be the World making a complete stomping ground out of both this top jungle and mid lane. Now, obviously, you look towards Marth, who did end up trying to fight with them. They did end up getting their life suffocated from him, but that is just going to be the price to pay. With the lead now going to be 800 or so gold up in top side. What that's going to likely lead to, Isaac, is going to be this stranglehold, as they're going to constantly be able to take advantage, which is interesting because so far in this game, it feels like this Mordekaiser has been a lot more proficient than we've seen them throughout the entirety of the series. This time, they've been good. They've been hitting a lot of their skill shots. They've been able to force the world to take a substantial amount of damage and being able to proc their past it pretty consistently. Now, look at the bar. It's completely full. If I'm looking at NO, they're likely going to be able to fully charge that up.
Ooh, Rev. Bit too far away from Artifact to follow up. The dash forward from Marth, not quite going to hit the mark. Goat Theory going to go between worlds and claim a 4th kill of the game to Kamishiro in a Razu. Double buff advantage to the world, as well as those 3 other kills, makes it 4 now. And Psyduck going over the wall, but Sloth will cash out on the kill for Psyduck, onto Psyduck. And so at the very least, there is a return for Gremory.
It's going to be able to play for the Drake now. 3 players getting on it is going to be the information now, as all 3 get spotted out by the ward. Still, jungler coming up close. It is the Amumu going to be able to come into proximity.
Sloth being the one running forward. Sloth hasn't recalled just yet. Goat Theory will go invisible, target out by Kamishiro. The smite comes down in favor of Marth and the side of Kamishiro. Sloth still at range, taking down Marth. Kamishiro in the midst of everyone is able to escape, and 2 kills go the way of Gremory. Psyduck tries to chase down a low health bar, but will go too far forward. Artifact also going to finish off a kill, and so it's 6-5 very quickly the way of Gremory, and the early advantage Kamishiro picked up for themselves disappears in an instant.
This change up in pace, Gremory completely taking over the game. That is exactly what they were looking for, this comeback to be able to start pushing in the bot side, and it's of course Sloth who's going to be the main instigator of it.
Second BF sword on the recall.
What does that even build into?
It doesn't build into anything.
That's
it
ridiculous.
Just gives you a ton of AD. It's to try to push the advantage early on, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, because he's probably going maybe Bloodthirst. I don't know if Bloodthirster first is still the thing that Draven does, but I mean, Draven probably at some point going to be picking up an IE and a Bloodthirster, whether or not it's immediately or not. Will probably need 2 BF swords anyway, so going to delay his sharp 1-item power spike for an immediate burst of AD in his inventory. See if that is the play that will help propel Gremory to the victory or not.
At this point, starting to push into the jungle. Seems like Grubs are going to be next on the chopping block, and with a 4-0 Zaheen, that's going to be a very, very easy thing to contest. You'd imagine you're going to be very, very capable of forcing this Mordekaiser into a rough spot, especially with the Mordekaiser not really having the most gold efficiency at the current state. I mean, yeah, they have the Amplifying Tome as well as the note. It's just not going to be very, very optimal. So look towards the Grubs. Nobody really going for the contest. It's going to cause that too just to be swiftly taken care of. And as they get all 3, that's going to be able to give them that same passive ability, making turret taking significantly easier. The world in a little bit of a rough spot. You look at the Mordekaiser, not going to be able to gather the most on their W, and that's going to cause them to not get the healthiest position to be at. But as of now, still going to have this Blitzcrank looking to fish for a hook. Might be able to make something happen. You don't want to get onto the bomb. You're going to look to try and get QST in that same close range angle. But with now the minions coming up, that does become a little bit of a lost tale.
Yeah, but does separate Psyduck from QST and does kind of get the wave away from Kamishiro's bot lane. It will mean QST will be delayed even further in wanting to be able to scale up on the Jinx, but now in the mid lane, Artifact going to be able to hop over the wall, and with Marth showing up in the mid lane, I was going to say earlier that it's a bit of a split hook, going to find his way onto Psyduck on the dash, stand aside, will get him a little bit lower. Unbreakable comes up immediately to prevent some of those huge auto attacks dropping on from Sloth, but 2 BF swords right now going to be hurting whoever he looks at funnily.
Yeah, at this point, Sloth still playing passive, looking to just...
All right, Kamishiro, what do you got? Hook hits the mark onto QST. Unbreakable jumps up immediately, but the damage has already been done onto the Jinx. The whirling death through the exhaust won't even matter. The tower shot's not even going to be enough to trade it back. Sloth is still alive, but Marth in the area on the Sejuani. He does have access to the ult, though will hold on to it. Any sort of hope from that would be a errant kill onto Sloth, who has a full health Kamishiro in front of him to ensure that two melee champions can't do anything to him.
Gremory, this point, up almost 2k gold. Significant amount of it's being put on Sloth, who's doing an extraordinary performance, just completely overwhelming in the bot side due to the excessive damage built up by those two BF swords. Certainly going to be seeming as if Bloodthirster is going to be next up for him, as they have that Vampiric Scythe now, as now up in mid lane. Going to have both junglers close, but neither really looking to fight.
The world goes under the tower. Will send the world to the death realm, but it's actually Inno's death that is inevitable with how far ahead this Zahin is. Kamishiro going forward once again, trying to find a hook. Will be coming up a bit short, walking onto those flame chompers. QST was well out of there by the time he arrived.
Looking like Drake might be contested for this time around, which honestly I don't know how possible that's going to be for Kamishiro, as they don't really have the firepower in the bot lane to be able to fight for this. But with so many players getting close up, now the Aurora bouncing back over towards mid lane, not going to look to try and fight this at all. It's still going to be the Drake looking to be fought for. Goat Theory being held out by the opposing mid laners. They are going to be stuck in that brush.
Oh, Blast Cone, interesting. It will find Marth into the midst of Gremory. Goat Theory on the wings. It's the Curse of the Sad Mummy that hits everybody. Perfect from Rev. And the hook follow-up gets yet another for Sloth. Teleport down from the world. Might be able to turn this around. The Zahin is huge, but all the while Sloth going forward, gets a double kill, shut down over to Marth, picks up one. The world will try to find a way forward onto Sloth. Very LD does have access to the revive, is able to find the kill onto the Draven, and picks up yet another. Those are where our eyes are on for this match, whether it's the world who can carry it. If the world can find a way in onto Sloth, it will go that way every time. And does so. Rev now in trouble. Found out by Marth. Psyduck waiting up. Going to be helping killing off the Amumu. Will get it over to Marth, but now a teleport is dropping down from the Nefiri artifact in the midst of everyone. A 1v3 currently. Going to try to get the kill onto Marth for now. Won't be able to do so as the Goat Theory teleport comes through. Artifact will be able to get the Hound's Pursuit down onto Psyduck to make it one kill. A hook from Kamishiro finds its way onto QST. Double kill for Artifact. And so on the back end of the fight, Gremory able to turn it back in their favor.
I mean, Gremory at 1.5k gold lead starts equalizing a little bit, but it's definitely not enough to be happy with. Now, going up towards top side, this Blitzcrank looking to try and get a little bit of extra vision, find out where everyone is, get a bit more discussion happening, but overall, the world up in this top lane going to still just look to suffocate this Mordekaiser under tower, force them to make mistakes, maybe go for an aggressive stance at some point or another, but overall, this Zahin with the Triforce now online, they're likely going to be in a stellar position for the rest of this game, as you still do not have that item. If you are that Mordekaiser, you're going to require a significant boost in gold if you want to be able to get that. They do have the TP now online as well. Very, very shortly, so that's going to be something else. It can be a real good tool to be able to fight in other lanes, be a little bit more dynamic with your positioning rather than staying static up towards top lane, but we'll just have to wait and see whether or not that is going to be an inevitable option for the world. Obviously, that will give their opponents some
Razu flashing forward. We got Rev arriving. Grim Deliverance going to heal up the world quite a bit. Won't be able to get the revive off, and now another. Kamishiro does not miss. Luckily, the exhaust comes through, but it won't be enough to stop the whirling death. Sloth picks up his 7th of the game. Meanwhile, Marth on the death brush gets the kill onto Rev, picking up 2 over in favor of Gremory. So now Psyduck won't be able to do anything to stop this tier 1 tower from going down, and perhaps should have backed off in time. Hook from Kaminokaze won't see a follow-up from Sloth, but across the map, fairly solid for Gremory.
Yeah, still Gremory just taking a good stance, takes the tower, goes to back, not getting too overzealous, understanding the fact that they're the ones in the driver's seat, especially Sloth. 7-1-2, a phenomenal scoreline to say the least. They're not giving over a single inch, and so now Gremory still going to just be in such a just dominant position to the point where the only real way that they can lose this game is if they allow the world to go unpunished in team fights. But if you're able to have the Blitzcrank, the Amumu both go to lock them up, that can become the just factor that'll give you a team fight win.
Kaze will run into 2 members of Kamishiro. Luckily, it is only Marth and Psyduck, so really won't be punished for that. But it will, as you've been kind of alluding to, will come down to the world. It will come down to Sloth in these team fights. If the world can find a way onto this Draven, this 2-item Draven, it will be very swift work for the side of Kamishiro, because everything is resting in the hands of Sloth right now. But if the side of Gremory can keep the world at arm's length, should very comfortably go their way with how much damage Sloth has available to them. Being now up 4k gold over QS2, who has just not been allowed to do anything in this game, with 0-5-0 is just not ideal.
Yeah, it's still just a rough spot. QSD having a difficult game throughout the series, and it might cause Kamishiro to be just in a tragedy of a drop. The Zaheen just needs to go crazy, and if the world can do that and they can take down the Sloth early on in these team fights, that's kind of the issue, right? The Zaheen is a character that really loves their dueling potential. So in a team fight situation, they don't really have
teleport now. Going to be coming through from Inno in the midst of everyone, but it's a good Curse of the Sand Money, finding stuns onto 3. Sloth autoing at range, but the world will have access to the revive should it come through. Sloth will get the kill. The Ignite's ticking down and does get the kill, but all the while in the other side of the fight, Inarazu will be picking up a few for himself. Dragged back from the world with the dreaded return, does a decent amount of damage onto Rev, but is getting very low. Won't have access to the revive once again. Goat Theory will be the one to pick up the kill. They won't find the world, but Goat Theory and Marth, left completely unmarked, will be able to clean up the fight for the side of Kamishiro. Inarazu going to finally get on the board himself. And all that, 1-3-1 now, still feeling all right. Goat Theory healthy. Inarazu sticking around perhaps a little bit too long. Maybe trying to bait Goat Theory for an eventual arrival of Sloth and Kamishiro, and not Kamishiro, Kaminokaze. Team Kaminokaze waiting over the wall. Inarazu pulls Goat Theory back. Drake goes to the hands of Kamishiro. A great hook from Kaminokaze. QST not at all cognizant of the danger from this Blitzcrank. Yet another kill goes over to Sloth. Inarazu pushing forward even further, but will get very scarily low. Won't die. Kaminokaze on the hunt and once again finds yet another rocket grab, but hold up. Rev will find a way forward onto Marth. Zoner second bandage toss, not going to hit the mark. So Kamishiro will finally back off, and through all that, just one by one, they all eventually arrive after the their respawn timers come back up, and eventually we'll be able to give him a moment to calm down. Of course, as I say that, another hook from Kaminokaze finds his way onto Goat Theory, but Aurora's a very slippery jump.
Down in the bot lane, the world rotating, trying to get a little bit more impact, expecting to try and play for this next objective coming up in just 30 seconds. So it definitely
goes forward. A hook on the Curse of the Sad Mummy gives no chance for Psyduck. Sloth the one to claim it, going to cash out once again. 9-2-2 on the Draven. Has the upgraded boots on as per the last recall. On the 2 items is absolutely massive. A 4.6k individual gold lead over QST.
And Harold coming on in, looking to try and place.
Oh, but the pullback from the world. Dreaded return hits the mark onto Sloth. The Glacier Prison not quite going to, but it will be enough either way on the Grim Deliverance. The world going to mean the world for Kamishiro to be able to get such a huge target out of the hands. And now QST going to get excited. Rev going to, as a result, have to flash away from a sped up Jinx. Inorazu on the side will have access to the Death Realm and will send QST to it. The Obliterate drops down and Inorazu going to pick up his second of the game.
Yeah, taking another kill. It is a good isolation of the one player who you can definitely take because they're so squishy, so you get that extra stat bonus, and they'll give them that lead necessary to be able to make the comeback. The world with this self-heal.
Inorazu obviously doesn't have access to the Death Realm, having had to use it onto the Jinx. The world will get yet another kill. 9-1 and 3 on the Zahin. Glacial Fissure marked off. Rev gets the knock up. Psyduck, the one to claim an artifact on the wrong side of the map, will try to get away as quickly as possible. Instead goes in onto Goat Theory to try to get a kill in return, and will actually get the space that the Neferi needs to be able to get out.
Still sticking around for the time being. Many players grouping up in mid lane, looking to try and gather fast. And
Kamino Kaze in trouble. Stand aside, didn't find his way onto anyone. Sloth getting flanked out by the Braum. The world going to get the kill onto the Blitzcrank. Double kill now for the world. Sloth and Kamino Kaze found way too far forward in the mid lane. 2 key kills get into the hands of the world, sends them 11, 1, and 4, and opens up the Baron for Kamishiro.
Yeah, Baron up next on the chopping block, and they're gonna have the information. Your jungler might even be on the way to try and fight for it, but
yeah,
to be able to flip
Inorazu has access to the Death Realm. If he can find a way in onto Marth with the low Baron, perhaps it could be a steal away. Inorazu in the midst of everyone. Instead, opts in QST to the Death Realm, pulls him back. Obliterate hits the mark, will burn down the ADC of Kamishiro, and now Artifact goes in to join the rest of the team. Inorazu and Artifact in the middle of the entirety of Kamishiro with no resistances from the Baron aggro. Shutdown gets into the hands of Artifact. Kamino Kaze will tell Cider to get on back over here, picks up the kill for himself. Not enough damage from Kamishiro to be able to burst down the Baron, and instead it is handed over to Gremory.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that misplay will be leading to the downfall of Kamishiro, as I mean, they played a team fight on the Baron. It was very, very scrappy, and it just gave over so many opportunities. Now with the Baron up, I mean, you aren't going to be able to lose off this Baron because of the just amount of boulders that are going to be in the way of Gremory. They still have to deal with both tier 1 and tier 2 towers and the mid lane, and overall, I mean, yes, this is looking good for them, but it's still very feasible to be able to make the comeback if you're on the side of Kamishiro.
Especially when you've got an 11, 1, and 4 Zahin, but the next Drake has spawned up. If Kamishiro can't take it, it would be soul points to the red side, but for now they are on the outside looking in to this fight. Rocket grab from Kamino Kaze, not quite going to hit the mark. Drake started up by the side of Gremory to look to pick up their second and prevent Kamishiro from going on to soul point.
Still playing a very, very rough start to this season. To be able to go down 2-1 would definitely not be ideal in terms of the losses, having that, especially when some teams are already going to be up to 3-0. Obviously, I mean, it's a format where it's not too punishing going into playoffs. I believe it's top 8 make it, so with 10 teams, you're very likely to be able to advance, but you definitely want some better seeding.
Yeah, it definitely allows you to give a good opportunity to go farther in the playoffs. However, it is a double elimination. You will have a potentially have a chance, but that's quite far from here. Rocket Rab not quite going to hit the mark onto QST, who not had a great game so far. Between Worlds used by Goat Theory, but it's gone too far forward. Will not eventually die. Will actually not eventually die. And so now Inorazu finds way onto QST, will find that kill, but Sloth is taken low. Sloth is taken down. The World picks up his 12th of the game and is going crazy in the middle of the entirety of Gremory. Does not care. Triple kill for the World. Inorazu will try to find a few back their way. Won't be able to do so. This Zahin is way too big to handle for Gremory. And once again, more kills get into the hands of the World. 14, 1, and 4. 4.5k gold up on Inorazu. And once again, Kingdom of Kittens, Kamishiro climb on the back of the World. Just call, I mean, they don't even need Atlas on the side of Kingdom of Kittens, Kamishiro, because the World is holding him up himself.
As now Kamishiro bouncing back from the deficit, coming back. It's very, very good from them. And I'm loving the discipline we're seeing from the World, who's been so proactive, so dominant. And at 14-1, they are now going to be in a position where the only thing that I need to see from them, take out Sloth. They've been good at it so far. Continue to do that. Utilize the ulti from your jungler. Make that just position work a little bit more proactively. And I think that that can be the dominant situation. Now, I don't know, right? There's still going to be 2 minutes still on the objectives. I think we're going to see a lot of standstill until then. And the longer this game goes, the more I think Redside has it.
But the dreaded return comes down, and the rest of Kamishiro arrived. KoK thought he found an angle to take out the biggest member of Kamishiro, but instead they collapse down. Inorazu will send the World to the death realm. Grim Deliverance comes out and gets a really large heal out for the Zahin. Does have access to the revive should he need it. Might not even. The World is legendary, getting the kill onto Rev, pushing even further forward. No care in the world about losing his health bar with the built-in GA available to him. Double kill for the World. They'll push in even further. Kamishiro extremely low. Will have to go back to base. Will allow Kamishiro to open up the mid lane tier 3 and the inhibitor. They won't quite look for the end just yet, but fight after fight, it's going comfortably to the side of Kamishiro on the back of the World.
At this point, just completely flourishing in a game of this caliber. We're looking at Kamishiro starting to be able to just force the issue. You look at the 5k gold lead for this top side. The World putting on a masterclass as they entered that last team fight, finding 2 early on. And after that, I mean, there was not a whole lot that we saw Gremory able to do. They did not get a single kill, and I mean, obviously Kamishiro kind of weathered the storm. They didn't necessarily get anything after that, but they still were a very, very relentless threat that needs to be dealt with. And I'm looking at the World in particular, as well as now a lot of these other players are starting to come back. Psyduck equalizing with their opponent in lane. Now, that was something we didn't really see earlier.
Everybody committed to try to find a kill onto the World. They've got him in the alcove. What can the World do? Can he buy enough time for the rest of Kamishiro to arrive? All 5 members collapsing onto the World, and they get it! Shutdown goes into the hands of Artifact. Psyduck a bit too late. Sloth the one to get the kill onto the Braum. So it takes all 5 members of Gremory to kill the World, but with Baron spawning, they will get not only a massive shutdown, they will pick up the Baron as well in trade for the Soul Point Drake on the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, taking Drake in this for the trade. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's definitely not ideal, but with the World dead, there's not a whole lot you can do. Exploiting the top side, it's just a great position for Gremory to be able to rotate up top and then take the kill onto the World side. In unison. Then obviously Kamishiro, they are now at a very equalized spot. It's only a 400 gold difference between the 2 teams, but with the Baron online, what that's likely going to do is start just making an exponentially higher rate of gold growth, as you're going to have these minions forcing Kamishiro to be able to constantly just neutralize the threat that they create, and that's something that is going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, and especially with the World, I mean, they got him once, but it took literally all 5 members of Gremory up in the top lane alone to be able to do it. And so It's not an opportunity that they will very likely get again unless they can use the Baron push to their advantage, which they might have done. The world spotted out, will be hit by the bandage toss, won't be able to give it a chance to revive. So once again, Gremory find a kill onto the world, and so they have all the advantage to press forward because everything is indexed into the Zahen.
Able to get 2 hits off. This Mordekaiser one away from proccing their passive. Not going to be able to get it just yet, though. They're still fishing for any kind of utility. The Baron buff still having so much on it.
Yep, from Kamishiro, hits the mark onto Psyduck, who flashes away immediately. The Whirling Death gets eaten by the Unbreakable, so won't have a second chance to come back to kill off QST or Psyduck. Hook not quite going to hit the mark onto QST. Goat Theory will go across the veil, get a decent amount of damage onto Rev, finds the first kill, goes between worlds. Marstone the one to pick it up. Now Razu getting particularly low as QST gets Psyduck, going to have to flash away from Artifact, is able to get the kill before the burst comes down. QST still alive, is excited, but goes too far forward, runs straight into an Razu with a passive, and now the world is back up. The world has arrived. Goat Theory will be the ones to claim the kill on to Razu, but it's only Sloth left standing. As soon as the world comes back, it's completely over for Kingdom of Kittens. Gremory, they're pushing down the mid lane. They have the inhibitor open. It's only Sloth who can hold things here for Gremory to keep them alive. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the kill, the respawn timers, so I'm not sure how much time Sloth has to use to hold off, but Rev is back up. Rev will land a bandage toss, gets the Curse of the Sad Mummy only onto Psyduck and the world, which will give him a little bit of time to come through. Marth goes forward, but not without anyone to follow up. Shutdown gets into the hands of Sloth. A little bit too over eager from the side of Kamishiro to be teleporting behind from the side of Artifact. They might try to find an end here off of the overextension, but Artifact spotted out by the world on the flank will eventually come down. Grim Deliverance comes through, and it will be the deliverance of Artifact, but no access to the ultimate. Does have access to the revive should it come through. QST not exactly doing all that much damage. Now, hasn't had a great game so far, but can they help out the world to survive a little bit longer? Now going to be able to revive Psyduck, and Goat Theory will come through. Mega Death Rocket will be tanked by the frontliners of Gremory, but Sloth's really low. Sloth left untouched. The world goes forward. Won't quite find the damage needed to kill off Sloth. He's at range. Sloth untouched. Shutdown gets into the hand of Rev, and the kill for the side of QSC now comes through. Will get excited. He looks to press forward onto Kamishiro. Will look to trade it back. A very hectic fight all around, which doesn't really see a winner getting either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good team fight for sure. I mean, Gremory comes out a little bit less I guess unscathed, but overall it's definitely not unideal. They're now only 3 for 3 in terms of people being alive, but I don't know. I think Gremory, they're in a position of strength still, just due to the fact that for the most part, Sloth, they are completely close to maxing out with 4 items already being online, close to a 5th by the looks of it. But I mean, QST, they're currently at 3, so it's like a situation of you don't really have to worry about QST who's on the Jinx. Like, the most that they're gonna be able to do is get you stunned up for a second when they use their trips, but outside of that, it's like there's not a whole lot of utility that a Jinx is gonna provide.
Oh, and not when you're dead, because Artifact uses the Hound's Pursuit to completely remove QST from the map. Will use the Hound's Pursuit to be able to escape, or at least try to escape from the world who's pressing forward. It is a stun up. Nefiri, Marth the one to pick up the kill. The world in the middle of everybody, but Razu has sent the world to the death room. At least that's what it looks like. Finally, the kill gets dropped down onto the Mordekaiser, and the world is back. Goat Theory, the one to get the kill. Dreaded Return hits the mark onto Kamishiro. Double kill for the world. Goat Theory looking to chase down Sloth, looking to chase down the end of the game. They don't even look at the Drake. They move straight over to the mid lane. So Kingdom of Kittens, Kamishiro believe they will have the time necessary to be able to end this game. Their health bars are full. They've got 5 members timers coming into Sloth. The respawn timers are quite long at this point in the game, but Sloth was able to hold them off last time. Can he do it again? First Nexus Tower goes down. Second one coming through. Super Mega Death Rock cannot quite going to hit the mark. Sloth taking low. Sloth buys time for artifacts to come back, but the Nexus is opened up. Hound's Pursuit comes through onto the world. Dodging out won't matter, because the focus of Kamishiro is to end the game, in which they do in a very hectic 35-minute brawl over.
I'd like to see from them in future is maybe playing that Mundo style much more often. That was something that they kind of let go of in game 2, or sorry, this was something that they adopted in game 2, but then game 3, game 1, they really were going for a bit more on the aggressive side when they locked in the Volibear, locked in the Mordekaiser. That's something you really can't be doing when you're the weak side going up against somebody of this caliber. You got to be the one locking in something like the Ornn, got to be the one locking in something like the Malphite, the Mundo, these top winners that are just looking to survive. Kills? No. Surviving, yes. And that was something that really did cause the Sahin to start just completely overloading in topside, that then transferred to mid, jungle, not really bot. Bot kind of stayed ahead, stayed really healthy. We look at this 32.4k gold. Phenomenally done overall. This Draven was just a nuisance to be dealt with, and I really give Sloth a lot of credit, because game 1, game 2, game 3, they stayed really consistent throughout all of it.
And so with that, the world really will mean that for the side of Kingdom of Kittens Gremory, as they confirm their victory. Congratulations to them and winning this Kittens Civil War. Will move up to 2-1 on the split and give themselves a winning record, giving themselves a decent base to be able to build from. Commiserations, well played to Kingdom of Kittens. Kamishiro definitely kept themselves in it for quite a while, but that will be it from us here on the Ember Esports broadcast. I've been Isaac. Alongside me has been Cherry J, Raven running the things behind the scenes to be able to bring this one to you. And so from everyone at Ember Esports, we say thank you for tuning in and have a good night.